The hush before dawn over Blackwater Bay lay thick as grave soil, broken only by the soft lap of tide against the half-melted slag of what had once been the chain boom. Fleets had burned here twice in living memory, but the smell of charred pine still lingered in the stones. In the royal apartments atop Maegor's Holdfast, Queen Daenerys I Targaryen dreamed uneasy dreams, dragons circling over grassy steppe, a child with mismatched eyes clutching a black sword that dripped moonlight. The cold kiss of winter blooming like frost across the red keep's crimson walls. She woke at first light, heart hammering, and sent for her hand. Tyrion Lannister arrived smelling of parchment, ink, and the cognac he pretended not to keep under his pillow. He found his queen at the window, barefooted upon dragon-carved tiles, silhouetted in rose-gold dawn. 4 months the city had labored to crown her victory. Banners of the three-headed red dragon hung where Lannister crimson once fluttered. But peace sat upon the realm as a cat sits upon coals, still but ready to leap. "They wait for me to stumble," Daenerys said without turning. All those lords who bent the knee when Drogon's shadow passed overhead dream of unbending the moment they smell weakness. "What tidings from the stepstones?" "None that you wish to hear at breakfast." Tyrion's voice was wry, yet beneath the jest lay iron. "The Triarchy is in revolt against itself again. Our sell sales favor whoever pays promptly, which means not us. And the Golden Company has fractured. Fractured? Broken, splintered, scattered to every wind. 2,000 remain loyal to Captain General Toten Co, skulking on an island offless. Another 1,000 follow a charismatic new commander who calls himself Bittersteel Reborn." Tyrion paused, wetting dry lips. "He claims descent from Demon Blackfyre." Daenerys turned. "The Blackfyres are dead. History is full of corpses who rose again when enough gold and grievance were piled upon their graves." He offered her a folded parchment, a raven flown to Storm's End. "It bears the sigil of see for yourself." She unfolded it. Black dragon on red field, but reversed, crimson flames flickering across sable wings. Beneath, in a careful hand, stood a single line: "The dawn is black before it burns bright." No seal, no name, but the paper stank of associate perfume and long voyages. Across the city, in a crooked tower once used by pyromancers, Archmaester Marwyn bent over charcoaled furrows on a silver map etched with old Valyrian glyphs. The old rogue had sailed from Old Town a moon past, called by rumors of sorcery awakened. Beside him stood Ser Barristan the Bold, returned from his wound bed too early, stooped yet unbroken. "Demon's blood returns to Westeros," Marwyn murmured, candle glow catching in his one good eye. A sword thought long lost glimmers in shadow markets of Volantis. Blackfyre itself, if whispers hold water. "The realm is weary of civil war," Ser Barristan warned. "The realm grows complacent, then." Marwyn rolled his shoulders. "Every long peace is but fresh kindling." In the great September of Baelor, half-ruined, its dome still open to morning sky, Prince Aegon Targaryen knelt before the statues of the Seven. Though born Jon Snow, he had taken his true name only after Queen Daenerys's dragons seared the Iron Throne free of Cersei's grasp. Now he served as her prince consort, a title he bore with quiet discomfort. Ghost paced beyond the broken columns, the direwolf hated the city's stench. Aegon rose when Ser Davos Seaworth entered, grey in beard and eye. "A ship sailed from Lys under secret flag," Davos said. "Fast and lean as any smuggler could love. Word is it carries a woman called Lyra of the Line, said to be daughter to Maelys bastard." "Maelys the monstrous?" "He died on the stepstones 2 generations ago. Some seeds grow slow in barren soil, but they grow." Davos's weather-creased face set hard. "My lord, the city whispers of Blackfyre claimants. If even the name stirs, we must tread wary." The prince's gaze wandered to scattered shards of painted crystal underfoot, fragments from when wildfire had burst the Sept's vault years earlier. "I remember stories old Nan told little lords at Winterfell. Of princes who raised the golden dragon and died for it. Could such tales rise again to threaten us?" "Steel birth stories, swords kill kings," Davos said. "A new blade, an old banner, and men hungry for change, that spark, tinder, and wind all together." Far to the east, upon the quarrelsome queen, flagship of the fractured Golden Company, Captain General Toten Co stood anchored off Bright Flame Isle. His campfires ringed the shore, embers mirrored in wave crest. Docked beside his vessel was a sleek black galley whose prow bore a dragon's head of obsidian. Upon its deck paced the man who called himself Daeron Blackfyre. He wore no crown, but his cloak was midnight silk, and at his hip hung a scabbard wrought of black iron and red leather. Within slept the sword that had slain Dorne's Prince Mikar a century ago, or so the legend claimed. When Daeron drew it that night, pale moon rays pooled along rippled steel. The cell's words gasped. Some fell to knees at once, others spat and turned away. In 2 moons Daeron proclaimed, voice cutting the sea breeze, we sail for Westeros. Not as mercenaries, but conquerors. The Witch Queen of Dragonfire sits uneasy upon the ashes of King's Landing. She will burn the realm as her grandsire did. We true heirs of Aegon the Conqueror will spare Westeros another reign of madness. Totenko watched, calculating. For coin he had gelded princes, broken oaths, and sold grief by the bushel. Yet gold glitters dull where dreamers shine bright, and Daeron's dream was bright as wildfire. By dawn Ko bent the knee, ceiling packed with blood and parchment. The first rumors arrived in King's Landing on saddle-worn tongues. Villages along the Rainwood had sighted black sails bearing 3-headed dragons turned red upon sable. Small folk whispered of a lordling leading the cell's words, fair of face yet cold as corpse ash. They called him the Black Dawn. Queen Daenerys summoned her court. High in the council chamber, the painted table, salvaged from Dragonstone's hall and recarved, showed chipped spires where Storm's End should stand. Around it gathered the power of her restoration, Aegon, Tyrion, Davos, Ser Barristan, Jon Royce of the Eyrie, and Sarella Sand in Maester's Grey. The Blackfyre threat is specter and smoke, Lord Royce insisted. Even if the sword returns, blood proves claim those bastard scions were snuffed out. Blood can be forged as deftly as steel. Sarella's amber eyes gleamed. And proof matters little to men who yearn for new banners. The Blackfyre name is martyr's gospel, each generation finds new disciples. I have 3 dragons, Daenerys said coolly. Rhaegal's green shadow darkened the courtyard below as if to answer. Let the false king test his steel against Dragonfire. Dragons breed fear, Tyrion cautioned. Fear births rebellion. If you scourge towns suspected of harboring him, you court the storms that ruined your father. Then we fight him on open field, Aegon said. Send riders to Storm's End, gather the bannermen. Not Storm's End, Davos counseled. 100 leagues south, in the Rainwood's edge, stands the ruin of Summerhall. Let the Targaryen born in Dragon's flame face the pretender in the ashes of Targaryen folly. The realm knows the tale of Summerhall, it will know the meaning. Daenerys considered. I will ride Drogon to Summerhall. Let the Black Dawn come. The march south churned Westeros's heart. Columns of unsullied in mirror-bright helms paced beside northern spears under the dire wolf. Dornish light horse flanked, banners snapping sun-serpent gold and red. At their head, Daenerys rode astride Drogon in loose chains, enough that he might soar if threatened, yet near enough that small folk could touch scale with trembling reverence. Some cheered, some prayed, a few spat, invoking the crone's mercy. Among the host rode Missandei, quill in hand upon a jolting palfrey, chronicling each village's petition, grain extorted by gold cloaks turned cells words, wells poisoned by bandits claiming Blackfyre warrant. Mothers fearing conscription of sons by both sides. War, even half-born, devoured. For days shy of Summerhall, they reached the market town of Bramblebridge, famed for its triple-arched span over the Windwater. Smoke smeared the afternoon sky. Houses smoldered, bodies lay where they had fled. Upon the bridge stood a score of Golden Company veterans in mismatched mail. Their captain shouted parley as Daenerys halted beneath Drogon's hovering presence. He tossed a sack. It burst. Half-burnt scrolls spilled out. Decrees of pardon Daenerys had granted to lords who knelt after the siege. Your mercy, the captain jeered. Writes in ink, the black dragon writes in blood. Then he slit his own throat, falling into the river. That night, Daenerys paced her pavilion, haunted by the quiet splash. I offered amnesty, she told Aegon. He answered with suicide. What god drives such devotion? Not a god, her prince said. A story. The Blackfyres gave disenfranchised men a banner to believe in. Better to die for a lost cause than live nameless. And what of my cause? Yours must be more than a banner, Daenerys. Or men will swap one dream for another. Summerhall awaited. A scorched ring of melted stone and calcined bone half swallowed by vine. They pitched their encampment in concentric rings, unsullied spears outward, dragon it hammered from timbers. Rhaegal and Viserion tethered outside, while Drogon stalked restless along ruined halls, snorting smoke through collapsed arches once graced by ballads and tourneys. On the second twilight, black sails climbed the horizon of Slane's Head. The Golden Company came, 10,000 strong, banners black and red, elephants trumpeting across dusty plain. At their center rode Daeron Blackfyre upon a dappled gray, clad in plate the shade of moonlit steel. His eyes were strange, one pale lavender, one deep indigo. On his brow glimmered a slender circlet of dark Valyrian steel. At his hip swayed Blackfyre. Between the armies stretched a field of withered grass and broken marble where King Aegon V had perished in inferno chasing dragon eggs. There Daeron dismounted, raised his hand, and spoke across the distance, voice carried by some trick of wind. "Blood of the dragon, hear me. The realm bleeds under foreign yoke, Dothraki screamers, unsullied eunuchs, Sellsword wolves from every shore. You sit a child's throne forged of bones not your own. I am Westerosi born, scion of Prince Daemon, grandson of Princes Aenys and Meleys. I am of the dragon yet of the realm. Bend the knee and I shall spare the city the ruin your ancestors wrought." Drogon roared, a furnace belching star heat. The plain shook. Yet Daeron did not flinch, his cloak snapped but his voice remained steady. In the hush that followed, Daenerys guided Drogon forward till the earth's heat cracked open straw. "I offer you life, false nephew," she called. "Forswear this madness, swear fealty, and you may sail east in peace." "My name is Daeron of House Blackfyre," the pretender replied. "I bend only to justice. Come dawn we test whose dragon stirs the realm's heart." As sun dropped, both hosts retreated to fires that crackled like 1,000 small battles. Tyrion paced his maps, measuring flank and ford. Ser Barristan honed his sword, eyes on memories. In Daenerys' pavilion, Aegon knelt before her, pressing ghost-white dire wolf fur to her palms. "Let me ride with the vanguard," he pleaded. "The realm must see the crown fight for them." "Your place is beside me," she said. "But if battle turns ill, you must lead the retreat. Drogon and I may draw their wrath, the realm needs a king who survives." "I am not your heir," he said softly. "Not yet," she answered and kissed him. Dawn spilled pale through smoke. Beneath banners wet with mist, lines formed. Unsullied locked shields, northern spearmen planted weirwood white pennants, Dornish arrows glimmered like desert suns. Across the field, the Golden Company unfurled elephants painted night black, tusks tipped crimson. On a rise stood a standard bearer lifting a banner of reversed dragons. Horns cried. Charge thundered. Battle was chaos. Elephants crashing into spear walls, clouds of arrows darkening sky, the hiss of soldered steel. From above, Drogon dove, jaws unleashing gouts of flame that swallowed pikes and men alike. Yet Daeron had prepared, shield walls parted, revealing scorpions salvaged from King's Landing and fitted with bolts tipped barbed and envenomed. A bolt tore through Drogon's left wing membrane, another grazed his flank. The great beast screamed, banking hard. Daenerys clung, hair streaming silver and flame. On the ground, Aegon fought beside Jon's old friend PYP, cutting through mercenaries who wore the red gold of Myr. He saw an elephant break, trampling its own mahout as wildfire grenades hurled by Tyrion's sappers burst among the Sellsword ranks. Yet the Golden Company held, discipline unbroken. At their heart Daeron rode, carving a path toward the dragonbit with impossible grace, Blackfyre's dark blades singing sorrows in the morning light. Ser Barristan spurred a white courser to meet him. Two old songs collided, Kingguard stainless against Outlaw King reborn. Steel rang. Barristan's first stroke broke Daeron's shield. Daeron's riposte sliced open the bold knight's pauldron, drawing bright blood. Around them battle paused, mesmerized. Then crack, Blackfyre bit Ser Barristan's breastplate. The old knight fell to one knee. A roar split sky, not Drogon, but Viserion, unchained and furious, soaring low. His flame bathed the ground, but Daeron raised his sword, and a strange shimmer rippled, turning white-hot fire aside as if the air itself were glass. Those who saw it spoke later of dragon steel woven with shadow binding. Others swore blood magic bled from the blade, fueled by centuries of grievance. Whatever the truth, Viserion veered, shrieking, wings scorched but alive. Daeron offered Barristan mercy. The old knight spat crimson and drove his dagger toward Blackfyre. Blade met blade, sparks flew, the dagger shattered. Daeron whispered something, perhaps a prayer to lost kin, then delivered the killing stroke swift and clean. A hush rippled outward as if the fall of the realm's finest night were omen of storms yet to break. Up in wind-torn heights, Drogon wheeled, wounded yet wrathful. Daenerys pressed hand to black scale, slick with blood. Not yet, she whispered. Below, unsullied ranks faltered as elephants breached barricades. She saw Aegon forced back toward the broken walls of Summerhall. Fear twisted, love sharpened. She urged Drogon into a stoop, flame-igniting marrow of heaven. Daeron, seeing, raised Blackfyre two-handed. The sword drank light, an abyss of gleaming dark. As Drogon's inferno roared downward, Daeron swung, one crescent arc against the sky, and flame met unseen bulwark. Fire split, half-hugging ground, scorching Sellswords and Reachmen alike, but sparing Daeron. When the blast cleared, the pretender still stood, armor smoking, hair floating like ink in water. He pointed his blade at Daenerys. Behind him, archers knocked special shafts. Black wood sleekened with basilisk blood. The volley loosed, for arrows found gaps in Drogon's hide. The dragon faltered, crashed beyond the ruins, smashing pillars to rubble. Dust blossomed. Silence beat like a heart. Daenerys crawled from shattered timbers, dazed. Blood in her mouth tasted of copper and ash. Across the courtyard, Daeron approached, helm removed, face young yet haunted. "Surrender, cousin," he said. "Westeros hungers for more than fire and fear. I offer rule bound by law, counsel, and compassion. Tempered steel in place of wildfire. And you think a sword and Sel's words buy you that crown?" "No," he gestured vaguely, and from the smoke emerged a small figure. A girl of perhaps 12, hair silver gold, eyes deep lilac. She wore simple riding leathers but bore the poise of harps strung to celestial pitch. "Blood does," Daeron said. "Behold Alyssane Waters, child of Daenerys Stormborn, taken from Meereen streets 6 years past. Mother and daughter, divided by dragons, united by truth." Daenerys stared. Memory cracked. A slave girl named Asaria delivered of child during the chaos of Yunkai's siege. The babe whisked away for safety. She had feared the child perished. Now the girl gazed, uncertain, tears trembling. Daeron's voice softened. "Join me, Aunt. I will wed your daughter to my son when he comes of age, uniting Blackfyre and Targaryen at last. No more dance of dragons, only union." In that instant Daenerys felt the weight of every king and queen before her. Her gaze shifted across the battlefield where corpses cooled, where Regal circled above like emerald comet, where Aegon still fought to rally shattered lines. She saw two futures, one of compromise, forged upon her own defeat, one of endless blood, forged upon defiance. She rose trembling. "I will not kneel," she said, "but I will parley." From rubble, Tyrion emerged, limping, quill and parchment ready. Davos guided Aegon to stand guard, sword still slick. Sarella bound Ser Barristan's body, tears silent. As midday sun crowned the ruin, rival dragons glared across cracked stone. The wounded beast crouched beside a queen of fire and a blade of night held by a king of grievance. Words began where swords had paused and history itself held breath. Negotiations stretched through waning light. Each clause written cost a drop of pride, each concession won saved a draft of blood. Daeron demanded recognition as Prince of Summerhall, right to raise banners beneath reversed dragon. Daenerys allowed but claimed ultimate suzerainty. Daeron sought a seat on the small council. She offered master of laws, not hand. They wrangled over reparations, pardons, warships, all while their armies tended wounds and buried dead. Night fell deep. Fires painted ruins red. Within the cracked throne room of Summerhall, its ceiling opened to stars. Daenerys and Daeron shared final cup of Dornish red across a war-scarred table. The wine tasted of smoke and stone fruit. "Tell me," she said quietly, "why do you wield that sword?" He looked down at Blackfyre. "Because every man needs mirror. The Targaryen legacy is fire, the Blackfyre legacy is shadow cast by that flame. Without one, the other blinds. Shadows grow where fires rage." She sipped. "If we rule together, dragon and shadow mayhap the realm finds balance." He held her gaze. "If either of us wavers, the realm shatters anew. Then let neither falter." Beyond stone arches, a mournful note rose, a single horn calling ceasefire until dawn. Sentries untensed, dragons settled. Somewhere a babe cried, somewhere a widow wept quiet. Under alien stars, two scions of Valyria forged truce upon the bones of summer dreams. Yet peace is a seed sown in uncertain soil. In the dungeons beneath Summerhall lay prisoners whose tongues whispered of darker powers guiding Daeron's rise. Shadowbinders from Ashai, warlocks of Karth, black priests of R'hllor who revered night as dawn's mirror. And in the Maester's pavilion, Sarella unraveled vellum maps marking caches of dragonglass hidden in the hills of Dorne, charted by Meleys generations ago, enough to arm an army against the White Walkers rumored beyond the Broken Wall. To north, ravens brought word that Queen Sansa Stark at Winterfell questioned alliances forged in grief. To west, the Ironborn prowled seas seeking. Prophet in chaos, In King's Landing, the Faith militant, newly emboldened, decried the union of dragon and pretender as sin against the Seven. Nor was the sword quiet. Blackfyre hummed faint when moonlight struck. Daeron heard voices in its steel, half promise, half command. Claim, reign, renew. He woke some nights with ash upon fingers. In Dragonstone's dark, Melisandre of Ass-High watched flames and saw a shadow black as dawn devour a golden crown before dawn's true fire burned all. She whispered a warning to unseen ear. Thus the realm held its breath, perched on cusp of harmony or cataclysm as the first fragile accord between Red Dragon and Black whispered across charred summer stones. And somewhere in the vastness, winds carried scent of winter and of war unending. Months later, Queen Daenerys and Prince Consort Aegon rode into King's Landing at the head of a cortege bearing both Targaryen and Blackfyre colors. Crowds parted, uncertain. Some cheered. Some knelt. A few hurled rotten fruit, quickly quelled by unsullied spears. Within the Red Keep's throne room, the Iron Throne, its melted swords reforged into gentler silhouette by Daenerys' smiths, gleamed under stained glass rebuilt to show dragons entwined, black and crimson. Before that throne, Daeron Blackfyre knelt and swore fealty, his voice echoing against vaults once cracked by wildfire. He rose, not king, but Lord Protector of the Stormlands, sworn brother to the crown. The court breathed again. In Storm's End, stone masons carved new sigil, a double dragon, one red on black, one black on red, their necks curved in mirror embrace, crowned by pale star of dawn. Young nobility flocked to learn the dance of politics reborn, older lords muttered of two heads upon single viper. But in the crypt below Summerhall, Sarella Sand studied age-crumbling prophecy etched by a mad king's pyromancer when the black dawn meets the red dusk, the fleet of dead sails south. She frowned, cool scratching notes. A cold wind edged the chamber, though torches burned bright. Winter's first true snow-dusted King's Landing on the eve of the new year. From the north came ravens saying white shadows stirred again, hungrier than before. From the east came whispers that Cartha's warlocks plotted vengeance for dragons spurned. From the south, Dornish merchants spoke of shadowy figures purchasing barrels of wildfire with rubies stained black. Daenerys stood upon the ramparts above Blackwater Rush, cloak snapping. Beside her, Daeron watched dusk bleed across water. "Do you regret?" she asked, "laying down your crown?" "I regret only the waiting," he answered. "Waiting to see if this peace grows roots." She exhaled warm breath into cold air. "Roots or thorns, we shall tend them together." Below, in Flea Bottom, storytellers spun new legends of a queen of fire and a king of shadow forging fragile dawn, of dragons that mourned the sun and swords that drank darkness. Children listened wide-eyed, never knowing which tale would shape their tomorrows. The realm slept uneasily, as all realms do when history turns its page, ink still wet, future still unwritten, the torch of prophecy flickering between hope and horror. And in the darkness of Dragonstone's cavernous belly, 3 dragon eggs, gifts from Karth long ignored, trembled, cracks spidering like veins of quicksilver. Heat thrummed, faint but rising. Somewhere deep in Valyrian blood, a song awakened, fire answering shadow, shadow answering fire, the chorus of dawn black before it burned bright. Moonlight washed the ramparts of Maegor's holdfast in silver, but the dream that drove Daenerys from her bed was black. She had stood upon a shore of broken glass while distant fires devoured a city whose towers she could not name, yet whose screams carried a familiar accent. Snowflakes as large as coins fell, each one hissing to steam where they touched the molten beach, and in the stormlit sky a sword of night dark metal gleamed like a crack between worlds. When she tried to shout warning, her breath became a pair of wings beating uselessly against her lips. She woke with the taste of ash and salt mingling on her tongue, and knew sleep would not claim her again. The queen drifted through corridors muted by winter's first chill until she found herself before the Tower of the Hand. A single light flickered behind Tyrion's shuttered window. The dwarf was already awake. She knocked. "Do you ever sleep?" "Only when the stories in my head grow dull," he answered, ushering her inside. In the soft lantern glow, his parchment-strewn desk looked like the wreck of a paper ship caught in a tide of ink. Was it the dream again? A darker turning. She lifted a map cornered by stones. "Tell me of the northern ravens." Tyrion sighed. "Harsh news breeds on winter wings. The dead are restless north of Last Hearth. Sansa Stark sends word of cold things glimpsed beyond the shivering sea. Ghost ships crewed by whites, their sails sewn from human skin. Maesters dismiss it as fisherfolk's fancy. Yet the wall remains breached and Queen Sansa's scouts are seldom fanciful. Daenerys traced a finger from Winterfell down to King's Landing. White walkers stirring, warlocks plotting, and a sword that turns dragonfire. It feels as if all the tales told to frighten babes have grown teeth at once. Tyrion's mismatched eyes narrowed. Tales thrive on doubt. Your fragile peace with Lord Protector Daeron is a masterpiece of compromise. But compromise is tinder for cynics. Half the realm wagers you will turn on one another before the year is out. Will we? She asked quietly. Not by intention, Tyrion said. But history rarely grants intent the last word. Behind them a knocking sounded. Ralla, once a scribe in Meereen, now the Queen's steward, breathless. Your Grace, a raven from Dragonstone. Lady Melisandre requests immediate audience. She claims the Lord of Light shows visions urgent to the realm. Summon her, Daenerys said. At dawn. Dawn proved pale and thin as if the sky itself had lost blood. Melisandre arrived by swift galley, red silks billowing. She bowed before the Queen and her council in the refurbished Great Hall, with its melted rafters replaced by weirwood beams. The chamber smelled faintly of sap and resin. Storm and shadow converged, the priestess said, voice soft as coals about to burn. The blade Blackfyre drinks more than light, it drinks prophecy. Its bearer is not wholly its master. Daeron entered moments later, cloak of sable trimmed with scarlet falling around lean shoulders. He greeted Daenerys with a warrior's nod, received by her with careful grace. At his hip Blackfyre seemed to hum as if roused by the Red Woman's presence. Melisandre's eyes reflected the sword's dark shimmer like twin rubies. The steel remembers, she whispered, and the steel resents. Daeron stiffened. Speak plainly. I have seen two dawns, she said. One black, one red. In one, ice devours the south until even Dorne lies frozen beneath silent moons. In the other, fire floods the world so fiercely the seas turn to boiling glass. Between them stands a third dawn not yet forged, a sword of living flame wielded by two hands joined. She turned to Daenerys. One hand is yours, mother of dragons. The other, she faced Daeron, must relinquish the shadow he clutches, or it shall clutch him in turn. Tyrion's quill halted. You advise our Lord Protector to abandon his ancestral sword and with it half his following. I advise salvation, Melisandre answered. Lightbringer must be born anew or all bargains die in darkness. She produced a slender glass vial, swirling with shimmering golden powder. Ground from dragonglass kissed by dawnfire upon Dragonstone's shore. Mix these grains with Valyrian steel, temper with dragon flame, and the blade will awaken true. But the forge demands more than ore. It thirsts for living blood freely given. Silence settled like snow. At last Daeron spoke. Whose blood? Melisandre's gaze drifted to the dais where Alyssane Waters sat quietly beside the Queen, feet not yet touching the floor. A seed of dragon, untainted by war, loved by both fire and shadow. The child's blood wedded to steel shall knit dawn to unity. Daenerys' chair scraped stone as she rose. You would spill my daughter's blood for a prophecy. A single drop, freely bestowed atop the anvil, Melisandre replied. No harm, only sacrifice acknowledged. Enough, Daenerys said. She touched Alyssane's shoulder. The girl leaned into her side, trust blooming despite the strangeness of new motherhood. My child shall not bleed for omens. Daeron's fingers tightened on Blackfyre's hilt. Nor will I yield my sword to witchcraft. Melisandre bowed. Then choose your dawn. Darkness approaches. She departed, leaving the council fractured by fear none dared voice. The next moon brought a messenger from Old Town, Archmaester Hullen, bright copper beard streaked with white. He bore grim tidings. The Citadel's ravens from Eastwatch had ceased. Travelers along the stony shore reported columns of blue-eyed dead marching south by night, sea foam glittering icy on their shoulders. The long night stirs anew, Hullen said. The wall broken takes no visitor's levy. It only yields passage to doom. Daenerys convened lords and levies. We must ride north, she declared. If winter marches, the realm marches to halt it. Daeron countered. The stormlands still nurse wounds. The reach starves under failed harvests. Empty granaries march poorly. Dispute blossomed. Lord Gorman Peak of Starpike, once executed for Blackfyre pride, now risen anew, argued famine would kill more than cold. Lady Sansa, reached by Raven, warned Winterfell could not feed 2 dragons' hosts. Queen Sarella of Dorne promised oranges and grain but required escort through pirate-ridden seas. Amid discord, Tyrion composed a proposal, a writ of unified levies, calling banners from each kingdom with supply quotas linked to tax relief. Daenerys signed. Daeron withheld. This binds my people to debt before war's cost is known. Without bond, Tyrion said. Men hoard grain while neighbors starve. A ledger buys accountability. Daeron departed in anger that night, riding south with Stormlander captains to muster his own way. In quiet chambers, Daenerys felt the gulf widening. We win a battle and lose an ally, she told Aegon. The prince laid a hand on hers. Brick by brick, he said. Trust is a wall harder to mend than stone. Below the keep, Rhaegal and Viserion grew restless, wings beating stalls. Drogon refused chains altogether, patrolling skies like a red comet. City folk took it for omen, some prayed, some hid, some sharpened spears. Far across the narrow sea in the black-spired city of Karth, the warlocks of the 13 convened beneath indigo lanterns. Piapri, lips blue as grave cold, exhaled smoke shaped like coiling wire mess. The dragon's attention rests upon false dawn, he hissed. Let us stoke the night. They conspired with agents of the Shadow Lands, bartered vile blood of shadow binders, and dispatched silent sisters carrying obsidian heartstones to the riverlands. There, rumors rose of plague fires burning whole hamlets overnight, leaving dreams of cold voices echoing in the ashes. At sea the Ironborn prowled. Euron's pale cousin, Harris Pike, captained the Leviathan I new flagship salvaged from Carthian warship wrecks. He flew no kraken but a black dragon impaled by silver trident. Chaos buys plunder, he told his crews. We raid both Queen and Pretender, watch them bleed, and crown the drowned god with their drowned bones. Ships burned from Shield Islands to small Council Bay and grain for the northern march soaked salty waters. Famine approached on black fins. Darren's muster at Storm's End swelled beyond expectation. Reach knights seeking fame, river lords suspicious of Targaryen dragons, even disaffected northerners from White Harbor drawn by promise of a king who knew their tongue. With them marched priests of the Seven bearing the star of the stranger inverted. They preached that dragons were sins reborn and that a sword of shadow was the stranger's gift to purge fire's vanity. Ser Laurent Marbrand warned Daeron of zealotry's poison, but the Lord Protector answered, let each man kneel to the gods he will, so long as they rise to fight the dark. He did not see that the priests preached a darker gospel beneath. In crypt meetings candlelit, they carved the sign of the broken wheel into wooden idols, claiming a silent god older than the 7 promised redemption through annihilation. They called themselves the Wheelbreakers, named for Daenerys's boast of breaking wheels. Yet these followers meant to break the world entire. Blackfyre's song in Darren's sleep deepened. Whispers of rightful rule, visions of black-winged angels scattering flames. He confided to his half-sister Asha Peak, a knight in his personal guard. The sword speaks, he said. It shows roads paved in frost or fire, and at each crossing stands a dragon roaring for blood. Asha eyed the blade. Steel that drinks prophecy may drink sanity next. Sheathe it when you dream. But he could not. Winter's bite tightened. Snow fell upon King's Landing rarely, yet now drifts hugged cobbled alleys. The populace huddled round braziers, muttering about provisions. In Flea Bottom, bread riots flared, sparked by rumor that royal stores favored unsullied before citizens. Gold cloaks intervened, but their new Lord Commander, Lady Brienne of Tarth, refused to spill blood, ordering extra rations from castle pantries. Her mercy steadied streets but stirred ire among wealthy guilds whose profits thinned. Amid tension, Melisandre asked audience again. She bore a letter inked in luminescent gold. From Karth, she explained. A final warning from the warlocks. Yield the dragons or let night devour dawn. They harness sorcery to freeze the sea gates of Pentos. Ships carrying Dorne's grain lie trapped in crystal harbors. Daenerys clenched fist. 1,000 miles away, yet they hold our throat. There is a counter, Melisandre said. A ritual of mirrored fire cast across black water. But Dragonflame must ignite it, and Blackfyre must direct it. Light and shadow as one. A union you insisted upon through blood price, the queen reminded, voice cold. Prophecy bends, but it does not break, the red woman answered. Choose. Bleed now a single child's drop, or bleed 10,000 in awakening hunger. Tyrion suggested a secret council at Dragonstone. Invite Daeron, weigh the cost away from courtly ears. Reluctantly, Daenerys dispatched ravens bearing sealed plea for parley, promising safe conduct to the island. Within a fortnight, Daeron's black sails cut Blackwater Bay like rips in canvas sky. He arrived with half a host, leaving zealot priests behind. Together with the queen, he crossed to Dragonstone, island of volcanic bones. There, in the echoing hall beneath stone dragon's jaws, they faced Melisandre's obsidian brazier. The priestess mixed her dragonglass dust with oil of red lotus, setting it within a shallow steel crucible. One drop each, she said, blood of queen and protector, willingly given, to anoint steel reborn. Daenerys unsheathed a dagger, slicing her palm. A bead of crimson pattered into molten glimmer. Daeron followed. As his blood struck, the mixture flashed, starlight caught in a jar. Melisandre lifted Blackfyre above the crucible, the blade trembled like living sinew. She spoke Valyrian words older than empire, words that tasted of sunrise and graves. Flame leapt, white-hot. The sword's black sheen fissured, rivers of red gold flowing through grooves unseen. When the fire dimmed, Blackfyre glowed from within, veins of dawnlight pulsing. The hall filled with thunderous hush, as though every distant heartbeat paused to listen. Daeron exhaled. It feels lighter. Because prophecy now bears half its weight, Melisandre said. She turned to Daenerys. Your part remains. Drogon lowered his massive head over balcony edge, amber eyes like twin sunsets. Daenerys climbed the beast's snout, laid her cut palm upon scale. Her blood ran, hissing to steam upon obsidian hide. Drogon roared, exhaling a pillar of flame into the brazier. Fire-flooded crucible streamed along runnels carved in the floor, raced outward like sunlit rivers charting a map. Through vaulted windows the blaze leapt sky-high, a beacon visible to ships leagues away. From fleets off Claw All to tower tops in King's Landing, folk beheld a tongue of fire crowned by white corona. Some knelt, crying the savior dawn. Some fled, fearing dragon's wrath. Some, particularly those bearing the broken wheel mark, raised clenched fists and vowed it was false dawn. When the beacon faded, Blackfyre's glow steadied, luminous as quiet dawn. Melisandre knelt. Lightbringer reborn, she declared, welded from fire and shadow. Two souls forged into one covenant. Yet in the silence that followed, a hiss escaped the blade like breath drawn between clenched teeth. That night Daenerys walked the ramparts with Daeron. Over the dark sea, stars shimmered. The sword changed, she said. As we changed, he replied. Fire tempered by shadow. Shadow tempered by fire, she corrected. Their eyes met, recognition of shared burden heavy. But will the realm accept what sorcery has wrought? The realm accepts food before faith, safety before stories. He smiled, but weariness edged it raw. Let us give them both. He offered her the blade. She hesitated, then closed fingers about its hilt. Heat thrummed steady, not scorching. Visions flickered, winter armies shattering beneath auroras, cities ablaze with hope rather than rage. The sword felt possible. She returned it to him. In chambers below, Melisandre prepared to depart. Tyrion intercepted her. You speak of prophecy, he said, yet prophecy rarely pays the butcher. What assurance have we the sword will cut the colt? Assurance, she echoed, unfurling crimson cloak. Only the fire knows, and the fire speaks in riddles. But without the blade, winter had already won. Comforting, Tyrion muttered. Even as dawn crowned Dragonstone, omens of challenge arrived. A raven from Old Town bore the seal of the High Septon newly appointed. He declared the forging of Lightbringer heresy, calling upon the faithful to resist dragons and dark sorcery alike. In Riverland's hamlets, wheelbreaker cults seized septs, burning images of the mother and chanting, "Wheel to ash." And from the east yet darker news, Carthian warlocks, thwarted by the beacon, had unleashed a glass kraken upon Pentos's harbor, a leviathan of frozen water animated by shade sorcery. It shattered docks, ice-logged hulls, drove grain ships to the deep. Daenerys ordered Regal and Viserion to Pentos with Ser Arya waters commanding. The dragons melted the kraken to shards, but warlock assassins claimed the Prince Admiral of Pentos and half its ruling council. Anarchy rippled cross straits. Trade bled. Reports reached Dragonstone of blue-eyed dead crossing the neck, guided by unnatural storms that froze rivers solid overnight. The Night's Watch, shadow of its former self, sent pleas for aid. Sansa Stark marshaled northern houses, but scarce enough men remained after harvest scarcities and skirmishes with Iron-born raiders. "Time is coin we cannot mint," Daeron said. So they sailed. Combined fleets of royal galleys and storm-land longships cut north along eastern coastlines as sleet-laced rigging. At White Harbor, a grand host assembled, unsullied phalanxes, northern spears, Dornish bowmen escorted by sand snakes, Stormlander knights under the Black Dragon banner, even a small cadre of Ironborn renegades sworn to Queen Asha Greyjoy, who sought redemption by standing against winter. Upon hoarfrost-crusted plains outside Last Hearth they gathered, 20,000 strong, as moon shone waxen through ragged clouds. Ahead lay a valley where chill mist curled like beast breath. The vanguard reported whites massing, white eyes glittering. Among them moved taller figures cloaked in dusk-blue mail, others silent conductors of death. Daenerys rode Drogon above, Daeron at her flank astride a coal-black courser he named Talon. Between them hovered Lightbringer, its dawn-gold veins pulsing brighter the nearer they drew to the dead. The sword shed gentle warmth, a hush of sunrise before birdsong. Soldiers felt courage flare when its light touched them. Battle erupted at dawn's ghost. Whites surged with feral speed, meeting walls of unsullied shields. Northern archers loosed dragonglass-dipped shafts that burst undead skulls like obsidian hail. Dornish spears cut lines before falling back in practiced dance. In the heart of clash, Daeron charged, Lightbringer cleaving through swaths of corpses, each stroke releasing pops of steam and shattered frost. Where Blackfyre once hissed dark, the reborn blade sang bright notes, forging a melody of burning hope. Yet each swing also drained Daeron, a light drawn from body into steel. Veins near his wrist glowed faintly beneath skin. On a ridge another lifted an ice spear toward Drogon. Blue lightning crackled along its shaft. Daenerys banked, the spear sailed wide but detonated in a white storm that froze dozens of unsullied mid-stride. Enraged, Drogon reared and exhaled black-red inferno. The other raised arms conjuring wall of cold that met fire in shrieking hiss. For a breath both elements stalemated, pushing, and then Lightbringer's radiance slashed through the impasse. Daeron hurled the sword like a comet. It struck the wall of cold, split it. The shockwave shattered the other to powdered rime. Lightbringer embedded in permafrost, its glow stormed outward, undoing necromancy near. Hundreds of whites collapsed lifeless. But Daeron sank to knee, breath ragged. "Guard him!" Asha Peak shouted, rallying Stormlanders. Daenerys circled low. "Mount," she commanded. Daeron clasped her hand, hauled onto Drogon's saddle. Together they soared, leaving Asha to retrieve the blade. At altitude, Daenerys pressed flask of arbor red to his lips. "You give too much of yourself. Prophecy demands tides. Prophecy be damned if it costs you." He managed a smile. "So says the dragon who burned a city for prophecy's sake." Her face hardened, his smile faded to apology. "Forgive. The blade speaks, sometimes its whispers slip my tongue." Below, battle turned as wildlings under Tormund Giant's bane arrived, battering from rear, horns bellowing. Giants, few yet mighty, hurled boulders that crushed icy elites. Regal and Viserion strafed flanks. By dusk the night army lay strewn, and only snow moved among bodies, snow and the wind's low chorus like distant lament. They counted cost, 3,000 dead, many risen again before Lightbringer's sweep finished them, giants fallen beneath ice spears, 100 unsullied frozen. But victory, rare as spring crocus, bloomed in each survivor's chest. On the field's hillock Daenerys gathered leaders, Sansa Stark swathed in direwolf-trim cloak, Tormund with beard icicled, Lady Brienne blood-splattered but unbowed, Melisandre's scarlet silhouette, and Tyrion small among giants. Daeron stood pale, supported by Asha. Lightbringer rested across his knees wrapped in oiled cloth. "The wall is broken," Sansa said, "yet if we hold the neck, winter may stall." "Hold!" Tormund snorted. "Ice demons breed in blizzards. They'll be on us again by new moon. Must hunt their king." "Agreed," Daenerys said. "We ride to the weeping forest where scouts sighted a figure of crown-like horns. A Night King reborn, perhaps." Tyrion gestured to Daeron. "Our Sword of Sunrise will be required. But at what cost to its bearer?" "I will pay," Daeron said, voice steady though sweat chilled his brow. "Blade and iron one." Melisandre's gaze darkened. She laid fingertips to Lightbringer's cloth. "Each time dawn rises, night must fall somewhere. Release too much light and shadow deepens inside the vessel that wields it." Daeron met her eyes. "A burden I accept. A burden we share," Daenerys corrected. So they marched again, deeper into haunted north. Snow thickened, auroras flickered even at noon. Wolves trailed columns, not attacking but watching, yellow eyes reflecting dragon fire. In lonely watchfires, men spoke of the old gods stirring. One night Ghost slunk into camp, muzzle stained blue. He led Aegon to a clearing where trees formed rough circle, a godwood lost from map. At its center stood a weirwood stump carved with twin faces, one wept sap, one smiled knife-wide. Blue rose petals strewn round roots pulsed faint light. From the darkness stepped a figure draped in moss, a child of the forest. She spoke in halting common. "Fire and shadow dance on blade of dawn," she said, touching stump. But song lacks final verse. "Beware wheelbreakers who court the silence under roots. They seek to hush all songs." Aegon relayed warning to council. Tyrion pondered. Wheelbreakers, perhaps the cult in Riverlands gained ancient allies. Sansa clenched fists. They seized 7 villages along Trident, slaughtered septons, carved wheels in flesh. If they serve some older power, we face not 2 fronts but 3. Winter, warlocks, and wheelbreakers. Daenerys looked to Daeron. "We must trust alliance holds." He nodded, though Lightbringer flickered dimmer, as if uncertain. The weeping forest rose like a petrified sea of skeletal trees. Snow whispered across frozen leaves, each footfall an echo. Scouts returned shaken. In glades they found sigils of spiral ice, corpses arranged like broken sunbursts, and in their centers human hearts still beating within crystal cages. They pressed on until valley opened, ringed by standing stones blackened by hoarfrost. There, beneath a sky swirling green and violet, marched an army of the dead more vast than any legend. At its fore, mounted on an elk of ice, rode a creature crowned in shards of blue crystal, taller than other ice twin novas. Melisandre gasped, darkness given form. Daenerys mounted Drogon. Daeron lifted Lightbringer, now blazing like brand new sunrise, gold veins brightening the gloom. The blade's light provoked the Night King to raise an arm. Cyclone of snow erupted, swirling between armies. Within the storm shapes materialized, warlocks of Karth astride glass constructs, priests of broken wheel chanting dirges, their voices blending unnatural. The enemy alliance made plain, night, shadow, silence. Battle commenced. Dragons met aerial foes. Regal grappled glass wyverns, shattering them into razored hail. Viserion breathed green flame that melted icy chariots. On the ground, unsullied phalanxes advanced under Lightbringer's radiance. But for each white felled, 2 rose from snowdrifts. Stark spears braced lines, while Giant's Bane led wildlings through flanking hills. Daeron and Daenerys fought side by side, Lightbringer's arc trailing ribbons of dawnfire, while Drogon's roar scattered whites. Yet with every surge Daeron's skin paled. His veins shone brighter, as though blades siphoned life. Melisandre, chanting prayers, urged caution. Too bright and shadows swallow him. Daenerys swept Drogon low, using flame as shield, while Aegon, astride gray mare, rallied Mormont axes. They cleaved through priests of broken wheel, men whose mouths were sewn shut, eyes burning with void. Within their robes they carried black stones pulsing. When cracked they unleashed silences that smothered sound, weaponizing hush. Many soldiers fell deaf, disoriented. Brienne led rescue, her voice a beacon. Warlocks unleashed mirror fire, a cold conflagration reflecting flames back on dragons. Drogon howled as patches of scale iced over. Daenerys felt pain echo through saddle, tears freezing on lashes. She saw Daeron beyond swirling chaos, Lightbringer raised in both hands, facing the Night King atop his elk. The creature conjured spear of darkness longer than any pike, its tip swirling with shards as sharp as betrayal. Daeron charged on foot, cloak streaming. Each step left glowing prints. The Night King hurled spear, Daeron parried, Lightbringer's radiance clanging sparks. Frost crawled along blade's edge, gold veins flickered. The Night King conjured second spear, duel continued, ice and dawn colliding. In the swirl, Melisandre sensed a break. She climbed a ridge, flung herself into pyre prearranged, a pillar of dry birch. Flames exploded red, consuming her. Her scream warped into song, a last prayer. Sparks climbed skyward, accelerating until they formed meteor shower raining upon battlefield as crimson motes. Wherever motes touched shadow stones, they shattered, warlocks shrieked as their illusions burned, Breaker silences unraveled. Light returned, but at cost. Melisandre's body fell to ash, robe empty. Daenerys felt surge, Drogon's scales reheated, flame breath regained fury. She and Aegon led dragons in triune assault upon the zombie host, incinerating lines, toppling frost giants. Daeron still battled Night King. Frost coated his beard, veins glowed sunbright. With primal cry he drove Lightbringer into the ice spear, splintering it. He pressed forward, blade meeting crown of shards in dazzling explosion. But the Night King thrust gauntlet into Daeron's chest, claws sinking. Daeron screamed, yet through agony raised blade high and plunged through both their bodies, the sword erupting out Night King's back. A thunderous crack rent air. Night King froze, his blue eyes flickering like dying stars, then shattered into blizzard of snow. At same instant Lightbringer fractured, gold veins splitting, shards of dawnfire scattering. Daeron collapsed. The undead host faltered, unraveling as if strings cut. Whites fell inert, ice beasts crumbled. Warlocks fled, shadows retracting. Silent stones dulled. Victory trembled fragile. Daenerys dismounted, running across sludge of melted frost. She reached Daeron's side. His skin glowed faint like ember cooling. In his chest hole, no blood spilled, frost cauterized wound. He met her gaze, a sad smile. Will broken or bent? You shattered winter, she said, tears steaming as they fell. Winter returns, seasons, endless. His eyes dimmed. Guard the dawn. Life flickered out. His body sagged, but instead of lifeless weight, it turned weightless as if dawnfire consumed flesh to radiant dust. A swirl of golden motes lifted on wind, merging with horizon. Only fragments of Lightbringer remained, each shard humming faint. Tyrion approached, breath clouding. A king forged in shadow became a dawn weaver. He knelt, collecting shards into velvet pouch. We will remember. Sansa spoke a eulogy beneath weirwood starlight. Brienne planted dawnshard dagger into hilltop. Wildlings honored with wolf howls. Giants rumbled mournful drums. Dragons roared a dirge, wings beating slow. Weeks later in King's Landing, snow melted under returning sun. Grain fleets arrived unmolested, warlocks pursued by Lysine corsairs. Broken Wheel cult, leaderless after winter's fall, fractured. Daenerys convened great council. Seats stood draped in black and red, but also dawn gold, symbol of unity forged through sacrifice. Aegon, crowned co-ruler, opened proceedings. We emerge from night with scars and hope. Let us not squander either. He proposed a charter, Dawn Accords. Each kingdom would hold right of self-governance within realm, bound by mutual defense against existential threats, be they winter, warlock, or wheelbreaker. Dragons would police skies, northern wardens guard wall rebuilt with dragoglass fused by dragon flame, citadel and children of forest share lore. Daenerys placed pouch of Lightbringer shards upon velvet faircloth. From sacrifice of one, dawn for many. We forge new order, a realm not ruled by fear but by shared flame. She commanded royal smiths to melt shards with dragon glass powder and forge 1,000 arrowheads, distributed among kingdoms, a reminder that dawnfire belongs to all. Alysanne Waters, now Princess of Dawn, lit the first beacon in a tower overlooking bay, a dawnfire lantern to signal unity. When its glow touched banners fluttering, folk cheered across streets dusted by first crocuses of spring. In Storm's End, cloaked figure of Asha Peak knelt before empty crypt where Daeron's armor lay. Your light remains, she whispered. She donned black cloak trimmed in gold and rode to Riverlands to quell leftover zealots, bearing standard of dawn gold dragon on black. Somewhere along road peasants would name her the Dawn's Shadow. High above Dragonstone, new hatched dragons emerged from cracked eggs, one shimmering onyx and gold, wings translucent as sunrise. Daenerys watched, hand on Drogon's scaled jaw, wonder and dread mingling. New age, she said. May it learn from old ruin. Tyrion penned chronicles, titling them Song of Shadow and Dawn. In preface he wrote, history is no straight road but a spiral. Each turn revisits old storms, yet higher winds carry new seeds. Let us plant where ashes settled. As sun set on Day of Accords, bells pealed not for war but for memory. And far north, beyond wall being raised anew, an ancient weirwood sighed, red sap tear glinting as if sunrise dared arrive at midnight. In that tear's reflection flickered the faintest glow. Neither fire nor ice, but the shimmering promise of dawn renewing forever, forged by hands willing to bleed together rather than apart. Night slipped its pale fingers across the city's rooftops as if testing whether King's Landing still breathed after so many storms. The scents that drifted up from the alleys, coal smoke, sea brine, faint citrus from Dornish oranges in market stalls, seemed almost gentle compared to the ash and carrion smells that had once ruled these stones. Yet beneath that gentleness the red keep hummed like a sword on the verge of ringing. War might have ended on the weeping forest's frozen plain, but war had a habit of leaving its heartbeat behind. Daenerys Targaryen stood alone on the Maiden's Tower parapet, wrists crossed on the chilled stone. To the east the sky began its slow bleed into dawn, a thin pink that promised light if not warmth. Wind tugged her silver-gold braid, carried the distant clang of hammer on anvil from the temporary forges set up outside the dragon pit. Inside those forges the royal smiths labored to transform Lightbringer's shards into arrowheads, spear tips, and small knives, 1,000 slivers of dawn fire entrusted to tomorrow's defenders. Every ring of hammer on steel sounded final, irrevocable, and bittersweet. Footsteps padded behind her. She did not need to turn to know them, soft leather boots that balanced weight like a dancer yet carried the click of hidden blades at heel. "You should sleep," whispered Missandei. "The Grand Council reconvenes at mid-morning." Daenerys replied without looking away. "How does a city sleep when its queen dreams dragons hatching while fires still burn? Drogon circles the battlements as though the war continues. He feels my unrest, I feel his. The city sleeps because it chooses hope," Missandei said. "Even a restless hope is kinder than despair." Alysanne is reading in the solar maps of ancient Valyria. She has questions when you are free. A faint smile. Always maps. She charts the world before she draws it anew. The queen exhaled. "I will see the council. Then the child." Missandei withdrew. Daenerys watched the sun slip higher, brushing light across the slumbering Blackwater Bay. In that moment she sensed more than saw two shadows break off from Drogon's flight path, the young dragons from the newly hatched eggs, Jade Flame and Aurora Wing, testing their wings on the morning air. They were small yet, each perhaps the size of a draft horse, but already swift, daring loops near the mastheads of docked cog ships. The sailors cheered, then ducked when the fledglings' tails lashed too close. A pulse of fierce pride warmed Daenerys' chest, followed by dark worry. New dragons meant new fears, new enemies, new chains waiting to be forged by those who could not trust living flame. She whispered a prayer to no god in particular, merely to the promise that Lightbringer's sacrifice might outlast the doubts gathering like winter thunderheads. The council assembled in the broken throne room, so called because its high windows still bore cracks from wildfire blasts long past, and because the Iron Throne itself had been melted into a gentler, throne-like shape that some courtiers still found unsettlingly smooth. The great table was a vast oval of weirwood, ringed by delegates from every kingdom. Banners fluttered along the walls, the direwolf of Winterfell, the golden rose of Highgarden, the black kraken of a rechristened House Greyjoy, the Dornish Sunspear, the twin dragons of Dawn. At the head sat two chairs equal in height and ornamentation, one of dark steel chased with rubies for Daenerys, one of pale ashwood inlaid with silver for Aegon. Aegon arrived first, in simple wool doublet, ghost white dire wolf fur draped across his shoulders. Ghost himself patted at his heel, nose lifted to catch the smells of so many realms in one room. Brienne of Tarth in her new white cloak ordered lion shield guards to form a discreet ring around the dais. She still favored the white enamel armor of a Kingsguard commander, but across her breastplate someone, likely Podrick Payne, had etched a small rising sun to honor Daemon's Dawnfire legacy. Within moments seats filled. Tyrion Lannister, now styled Master of Quills and Coin both, carried a sheaf of parchment decks tied with crimson thread. Sansa Stark entered beside Tormund Giantsbane, who wore a barrow-stitched surcoat of black and dawn gold representing his band's fealty to the fiery queen with hair like new snow. Following them Lady Margaery Tyrell glided, chattering in low tones with Yohn Royce about trade exemptions for the Reach. Daenerys entered last, silk boots silent. She took her throne, laid slender hands on the armrests. A hush swept the chamber. Sunlight caught in her hair like molten silver, and for a breath the realms remembered the girl who once walked from fire unscathed. Then the queen nodded to Tyrion. "First docket," the dwarf began. "Grain allotments to small folk of the Crownlands through winter's end. We receive uniform reports that last month's convoys from Pentos have restored half the stores lost to raiders. The Hands Office recommends lifting ration caps to ease tension in Flea Bottom." Heads nodded. Lord Gorman Peake cleared his throat. "Lift caps, yes, but also freeze port taxes on foreign vessels that deliver net plus grain. It encourages wider trade." "Noted," Tyrion said. Second docket, Storm's End petition. Lady Regent Asha Peake requests formal acknowledgement of her role as protector of the Dawn Banner. She commands 800 Reach Knights still quartered near Tumbleton. She seeks authority to dispatch them against residual wheel-breaker cells. A restive murmur rolled. Lady Olenna's nephew, Sir Garland Tyrell, frowned. We have seen fewer than a dozen open wheel-breaker uprisings in as many weeks. Must we keep swords on Riverlander soil when bandits plague the Reach roads? The wheel-breaker threat is ideological, Sansa said. Their cult hides among small folk, recruiting with lies. Better trained knights than more terror. Marjorie leaned forward. The Reach may release knights if compensated in S.E.D. and tools for spring planting. A bargaining storm brewed. Daenerys lifted palm. I will send Jade Flame and Aurora Wing to patrol Reach caravans for 2 turns of the moon. A symbol of protection may equal 100 swords. Wider eyes, nervous but impressed. Garland dipped head in acquiescence. Conversation turned to the High Septon's censure. The Faith of the Seven had denounced sorcery, declaring Melisandre's self-immolation proof of demonic pact. They threatened interdiction of crown taxes if magics continued to influence policy. Brienne spoke calm but firm. If the Faith denies tithe, our city septs lose breadlines. Hungry faithful breed unrest. Tyrion rubbed temples. We might negotiate, permit a synod of septons to witness the forging of Dawnsteel arrowheads. Show them Lightbringer's shards now serve all, not Witchfire. Royce countered, they'll demand the shards themselves. Then send them a tithe of 15. Symbolic, not strategic. Sansa voiced weary assent. Others followed. The docket droned through midday. By recess the Queen's mind thrummed with ledgers. She left chambers through Servants' Passage, descending to the narrow walkway above the castle's cliffside gardens. Her quiet path to think. Gull calls echoed from below. Sea wind tasted of salt and possibility. She sensed rather than saw when Asha Peak stepped from an archway. The Stormlander's sable cloak whipped like crow wings. Your Grace, she said. A moment. Daenerys paused. Dawn's shadow always has one. Asha inclined head. Wheelbreaker cells gather near Harrenhal, led by a priest calling himself the Quiet King. He preaches that the song of shadow and dawn is trickery, that Lightbringer's shards are pieces of fallen star that must be returned to silent God beneath Worldroot. I ride at sundown to break his flock. You need men, Daenerys guessed. I need legitimacy. Storm's End banners only carry so far. A royal writ bearing both your signet and Aegon's will unseat doubt. Daenerys considered. A writ pledging royal support may provoke High Septon to accuse me of sanctioning heresy. Then let his tongue wag while we sever the serpent's head. Asha's eyes, gray as storm clouds, held a spark reminiscent of Darren's quiet resolve. We lost a king to silence. We owe silence a debt. The Queen drew a thin silver stylus from sleeve. I will sign your writ, but swear, take prisoners if you can. I won't breed martyrs. Asha knelt and swore. Scrolls exchanged, they parted. Night again. This time Daenerys found herself in the solar where Alyssane waters bent over a parchment sprawl of Valyria's shattered peninsula. Candles ringed her like a council of tiny suns. The girl's eyes, shifting hues between lavender and indigo, lifted. Mother, she said, still hesitantly yet warmer. Daughter, Daenerys Saturday, what quests lure your quill? Alyssane pointed. Here. Finger traced a dotted line across ruins where Dragonstone sat in ancient maps. The smoking sea hides islands not charted. The Archmages claim subterranean vents masked them from spyglasses. One island might be surviving outpost of Sea Danstone magicians who bred the Bloodraven orchids. Their lore could help heal dragons wounded by cold flames. 1,000 questions welled. Daenerys tempered them. You wish voyage? Not yet. The girl smiled shyly. Soon. For now I study currents. When Jade Flame is large enough to bear saddle, I will petition permission. Until then, knowledge is voyage. Daenerys brushed a curl from Alyssane's cheek. When that day comes, you will not sail alone. Alyssane looked worried. Some lords fear me. They call me Blood Price. Voice dropped. Am I? Daenerys's heart tightened. She clasped the girl's small hands. You are Price and Promise both, as we all are. Without your drop of blood, Lightbringer would be shards of shadow still. But I will not let anyone bind you to guilt. Your worth is your own. Tears glistened. Alyssane exhaled. I will remember. Winter's tale coiled in northern valleys, but spring licked southern hills. In Riverrun, apple buds burst too early. In Highgarden be stirred, confused, and in Old Town the High Septon convened his synod. Dozens of Septons arrived in crisp linen, determined to denounce Blackfyre gifts. Yet at the convocation's eve, silent figures in tattered black slipped through dormitories. When dawnlight struck stained glass, 13 Septons lay dead, throats slit in perfect circles. Each corpse bore a wooden token carved with 8-spoked wheel split by sword of darkness. News reached King's Landing with horror. Tyrion slammed parchment on table. Wheelbreakers escalate. Assassination of the 7 shepherds will paint us complicit. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Jon Royce urged war on Riverlands. Tormund barked for raiding parties. Marjorie demanded extra guards. Brienne advised calm investigation, but tension spiraled. That night the Quiet King sent Raven, a single feather blacker than shadow, inked with words, "Return the shards or silence will harvest dawn." He set deadline, 7 days. Daenerys read note before council. "We do not cede dawn to darkness," she said. "But neither will I see innocent clergy murdered further. We meet the Quiet King at Harrenhal and end this cult." Royce bristled. "Leave capital unguarded?" "We take necessary force," Brienne said. "City Watch holds garrison. Dragons patrol." Aegon rose. "I will ride at her side." Ghost growled approval. Plans hammered swift. Asha Peak already rode north with vanguard. The royal host would follow at dawn, 3,000 unsullied, 2,000 northern infantry, 1,000 reach archers, Stormland knights under Garland Tyrell, and a detachment of free folk slingers. Dragons overhead. They rode. Spring melt turned roads to mirror mud. Supply wagons slogged. Yet spirits rose. Each in they passed cheered dawn accords. Children waved carved wooden dragons. Mid-March a rider arrived blood-spattered. Asha Peak besieges Harrenhal's outer ward, he panted. Wheelbreakers hold central keep. They raised barricade of corpse wagons, chained still-living prisoners to parapets. They threatened to slit throats at sunset if royal banners crest horizon. Daenerys quickened pace. By dusk Harrenhal's black towers loomed, half-sunk, windows glowing eerie. Asha's camp sprawled south, fires ringed by armored tents. Asha greeted Queen. "Quiet King within," she grunted. "He parades priests on battlements. Claims he'll silence them for each shard not surrendered." Daenerys scanned ramparts, figures in Septon robes gagged, rope at throats. Wheelbreaker zealots in dark cassocks patrolled. Tyrion-eyed fortress. "We cannot storm without casualties." Inner walls still sound. Sansa suggested siege. Asha countered, "They kill hostages hourly." A hush fell when a deep bell tolled from central tower. A figure stepped onto parapet wearing robe of pitch. Hood thrown back revealed wax-pale man whose eyes were sewn shut with fine wire. Yet he turned toward them unerring. A trumpet of unnatural resonance carried his voice across moat. "Shards for shadows," he intoned. "Bring the dawn fire to the gate. Lay it upon black cloth. Depart. The moons will not set twice." Daenerys stepped forward. "You speak of silence yet flaunt your tongue. Release the priests and answer for murder." "No tongue speaks," the figure replied. Voice boomed though lips never moved, sound emanated like vibration of the stones. "We are many. We are none. Shards or blood." Aegon's hand sought sword hilt. Lightbringer shards safely stored away, but he drew a plain Valyrian steel longsword given by Ser Davos. "Ghost-bared fangs," Tyrion whispered. Voice through stone. "Some art of the warlocks." Night thickened. Daenerys ordered campfires dimmed to hide silhouettes. They convened war council inside command tent. Asha laid map. Secret Sally Port on East Wall. Last opened during Robb Stark's siege. She tapped. Swamp water submerges tunnel but passable in low tide at dawnlight. I'll lead infiltration. Sansa volunteered northern scouts. Tormund insisted wildlings spearwives join. Brienne, outranked but protective, joined. Daenerys considered risk. If infiltration fails, hostages die. She looked to dragons outside tethered. We could strike battlements from sky, but hostages in danger. Tyrion had idea. Wheelbreakers worship silence. Let us drench them in sound. He proposed forging thunder barrels. Wooden casks packed with pitch, resin, iron shards, sealed with rune-etched dawn steel splinters. When ignited midair by dragons, barrels would burst and roar so deafening it would disrupt Wheelbreakers' silence rituals. Sow confusion for infiltration. They had hours. Blacksmiths hammered. Wildlings carved runes, unsullied filled casks. Before daylight infiltration team gathered, Asha, Brienne, Sansa's Captain Ser Jorah Castle, Tormund, half-dozen silent sisters volunteering unexpectedly, they claimed oath to preserve life. Under moonset they waded swamp, icy water to chest. Eels brushed legs. Tunnel mouth gaped, half-submerged. They slipped within, torches sheathed. Above, Daenerys mounted Drogon, Aegon astride regal, Viserion for Arya waters trailing thunder barrels. As first blush of dawn painted clouds, dragons ascended. Wheelbreaker sentries pointed, horns blared. The quiet king appeared on Merlin, raising arms as if conducting mute symphony. Drogon spat flame, barrels ignited, soared, then detonated in rolling boom. The roar ricocheted off towers like thunder trapped in stone. Windows shattered. Zealots staggered, clutching heads. Some bled from ears. At same moment, infiltration party located inner courtyard, dispatching stunned guards. Brienne's longsword sang. Asha loosed Dawn's steel dagger, Tormund hefted axe. They burst into great hall where quiet king stood before altar of bones. Hostages knelt, throats raw from rope. Brienne sliced bonds. Asha confronted the king. He turned, wires shimmered round sealed eyes. His mouth stitched shut as well, yet voice echoed in heads. Sound as knife, silence as bomb. You cut, we heal. Asha readied blade. We break wheels, not worlds. She lunged. The king gestured, floor erupted with black dust swirling like inversed flame, forming snarling shapes. Dawn's steel blades seemed to glow brighter, where it cut, dust screamed and dissipated. Meanwhile Daenerys and Aegon directed dragons to strafe ramparts, incinerating siege engines. Firelight revealed Wheelbreaker acolytes trying to drag priests to parapet to slit throats. Regal's green inferno forced retreat. Inside, Brienne fought dust wraiths while inmates fled. The silent sisters formed ring, chanting antiphonal hymn older than faith. Their song resonated, dust recoiled. Asha dueled quiet king. His arms moved low to slow, yet blades of shadow extended from his sleeves, parrying her steel. She drew second dagger. Shadow cut cheek. Blood slapped flagstones. But Asha pressed, blades crossing Exa chest. She kicked. Quiet king staggered back into bone altar. Candles toppled, wax ignited parchment spells. Fire licked throne. He hissed, not audible, mind voice cracking like glass. Silence cannot burn. Asha hurled dagger of dawn steel. It pierced his chest. Light burst. Wires snapped. His body crumbled into ash that fell noiselessly. Dust wraiths collapsed. Outside, zealots faltered. Dragons roared final pass. Victory swift, casualties few. Harrenhal liberated, Wheelbreaker threat splintered. Survivors claimed illusions had whispered through stones, guided by warlock emissaries who promised them world without pain. Confessions recorded. Returning south, Queen's host passed villages cheering. High Septon lifted excommunication after grateful priests returned. Realm exhaled relief. But warlocks unresolved. Piet Pri, Roth, summoned conclave. They plotted to snare dragons themselves via shade glass orbs able to invert flame into ice. They hired Bravosi engineers, smuggled orbs through stepstones disguised as spice jars. Royal ravens intercepted one such jar near Gulltown. Maester Samwell Tarly, stationed there as envoy, studied orb. It pulsed with inner frost. He dispatched urgent message, essence akin to frozen wildfire. Potential catastrophe. Daenerys ordered inspection of all trade goods. The warlocks, foiled again, turned to darker path, resurrecting silence itself. Legends spoke of cavern beneath Ass-High where walls devoured sound. If shattered, silence would flood world like ocean. They prepared ritual requiring blood of star-marked child. They sought Alicane. One night in King's Landing, green fire lanterns dimmed without wind. Guards patrolled palace corridors when candle flames vanished midburn. An assassin materialized from hush. She wore warlock blue, lips stained indigo. She crept toward Alisane's chamber. Ghost sensed first. The direwolf raced, teeth bared. Assassin produced glass orb no bigger than acorn that absorbed ghost's growl, swallowing noise. Yet wolf pounced, jaws snapped orb, shattering. A sonic boom exploded outward, ironically restoring noise and wave. Assassin thrown into wall. Guards rushed. She bit tongue laced with poison, died. On her cloak they found map, secret tunnels leading from black cells to solar. Warlocks had infiltrated. Aegon tightened security, set watch of wildling hounds. The council convened again. Warlocks escalate to kidnapping, Daenerys said. They will not stop. We must strike Karth. Tyrion sighed. Karth is protected by 13, they trade across world. Invasion risks Esso's coalition. Sansa advised covert action, infiltration by faceless allies. Arya Waters volunteered. Years among Bravo's assassins had honed skill. Plan formed. Send small team under Arya, Silent Sisters with Dawn Steel stilettos and Alysanne herself disguised, she insisted, to confront threat personally and gather lore. Daenerys reluctantly agreed, but only if Brienne accompanied. Jade Flame and Aurora Wing, still too small for long flight but could ride flagship of Iron Fleet, commanded by Lady Asha Greyjoy. The fleet would fake trade mission. The voyage across narrow sea encountered storms. Jade Flame, restless, nearly escaped cage but calmed by Alysanne's lullaby Valyrian tune Daenerys taught. Aurora Wing chirped harmonies. At Slavers Bay the fleet resupplied covertly. Missandei remained to oversee ports. They sailed southeast. On 12th night, half-moon lit curved walls of Karth, tall red-black, studded with opal windows. Achaean pattern, a corsair hired as guide, moored outside port. Arya's team slipped ashore via kelp-dredged culverts, disguised as spice sellers. Alysanne wore tinted lacquer mask. Inside Karth's palace of dust, warlocks chanted around obsidian pool. Their ritual required mixing silent sand with blood of star-marked. They had caged children taken from shadow markets, searching for matching eyes. Arya's group infiltrated through chandelier shafts, but Piet Pri sensed dragon hatchling smell. He appeared, multiplied illusions filling hall. Blades flashed. Silent Sisters fought illusions, stabbing each until discovering real body by blood spatter pattern. Alysanne confronted Piet. He laughed, voice echoing infinity. Child of shattered dawn, your blood will still the screams of worlds. He drew dagger carved from glass worm tooth. Brienne intercepted blade, shield raised. Arya leapt, slitting warlock's throat, yet body dissolved to mist. Real Piet near pool slashed open captive child's wrist. Blood hissed on surface. Silence spread. Air sucked sound. Brienne's armor clink fell mute, dragon's shriek outside stifled. Alysanne acted on instinct. She smashed Dawn Shard amulet given by Daenerys for protection against marble. Shard burst in white flare, light devouring silence. Pool cracked. Warlocks screamed, they could still scream within brightness. Ritual reversed, pool imploded into vacuum, sucking warlocks in shard swirl. Air sound returned with thunderclap. Structure shook. Arya grabbed children, ushered out. Brienne lifted Alysanne, sprinting. Outside, Jade Flame soared overhead, unleashed Maiden Flame into Palace Dome. Building collapsed, burying Warlock sect leaders. Carthian authorities outraged but bribed by Greyjoy gold remained silent. Mission sailed home triumphant. Homecoming parade wound through capital. People cheered dragons new and old. Alysanne rode Aurora Wing, tiny crown of braided dawn steel glinting. Queen embraced daughter before throngs. Peace felt tangible as velvet. But there remained the shards distribution ceremony. High Septon arrived with retinue to collect 15 sacred arrowheads. In Red Keep courtyard, Queen presented casket. Septon blessed them, thanked gods. Yet as he turned, an assassin disguised as acolyte lunged, another wheelbreaker remnant holding Silence Shard. Brienne's shield intercepted, shard struck steel, shattered, unleashing localized hush. Within bubble, everyone's voices snatched. Assassin stabbed, blade catching Brienne's side. Blood sprayed noiselessly. Ghost tackled assailant. Tyrion hurled inkpot, shattering silence bubble. Sound returned, assassin subdued. He spat, silence rises again, then bit poison tooth. Died. Brienne collapsed. Maesters rushed, wound deep but treatable. Yet incident reignited fear. Daenerys addressed city from Dragonstone balcony broadcast by mirror speakers. Let fear not kindle its own flames. For each darkness born, a dawn arises. She announced foundation of Dusk Guard. An order of knights trained in counter-sorcery armed with dawn steel. Years turned. Snow retreated to peaks. Crops flourished under stable realms. In small folk songs, the War of Dawn and Shadow became legend. Minstrels sang of Daeron Blackfyre who forged day from night, of Queen who mothered dragons and dawn alike. Wheelbreaker cults faded to whispers. Aegon brokered pact with Iron Bank loans that reduced interest against profits from Dawn Steel mining and Dragonmont vents. Tyrion oversaw coin flows, kept taxes light. Sansa's north flourished. New wall of dragoglass blocks fused by Dragonfire stood half-height already, dotted with wildling watchposts. She and Tormund shared uneasy truce. Free folk traded pelts for grain. Asha Peak married Ser Garland Tyrell in pragmatic union. Reach grain, stormland steel. Alysanne trained daily with Dawn Shard rapier. Sam taught her tongues of long-dead Giskery. She dreamed of voyage to Smoking Sea, dragons at her side. One summer eve, council feasted on terrace. Laughter spilled with arbor wines. Tyrion entertained with tale of donkey that became septon. Daenerys listened, eye soft. She turned to empty seat once reserved for Daeron, laid palm on carved dragon. Candlelight flickered, for heartbeat she imagined him there, smile lopsided. She raised goblet. To the king who forged dawn, she said. All stood, cups up. Brienne, scar across ribs healing, placed gauntlet hand on hilt of dawn steel greatsword newly forged from palace incident shards. And to the queen who tends its flame, she added. Cheer rose. Dragons above answered with roaring harmony. Jade flame wheeled, Aurora wing twirled, Drogon rumbled approval like distant thunder made cordial. Fireworks streaked, painting sky gold, black, red, dawn white. Children clapped, old men wept, lovers kissed. Elsewhere, in crypts beneath Summer Hall, a lone candle burned near Ser Barristan's tomb. Asha Peak knelt, whispering news of peace to the stone. Candle flame guttered, yet renewed, shining steady. In its reflection a glimmer moved, perhaps trick of light, perhaps echo of dawn. She smiled, set fresh flower, and rose. Outside, the air smelled of jasmine and possibility. O wheel once forged tea. O grind the weak it cracked. In its place, spokes of many colors curved outward, not to crush but to hold the weight of a realm learning to turn in new harmony. And above it all, far above, two young dragons cut across full moon, their silhouettes crossing like crossed blades, one gleaming emerald, one shimmering topaz, writing promise upon night's velvet, that even broken fire can rise anew, and that dawn, once kindled, may yet keep watch long after the last shadows dare whisper. Clouds the color of bruised peaches drifted over the city in slow procession, casting fleeting lilac shadows across the sandstone walls that new masons were coaxing from rubble, stone by stone. It was the third anniversary of the Dawn Accords. Though no bells pealed, the council had agreed that commemoration need not always trumpet itself from every tower. Instead, the city honored peace by opening every well to travelers for free and by permitting children of common birth to walk the gardens of the Red Keep for a single day. The laughter of those children, bobbing in the breeze above the drone of gulls, was music sweeter than silver chimes. Daenerys used that laughter as lodestar while guiding Aurora Wing, grown nearly half the length of Regal, through a series of low, banking passes above the gardens. The fledgling's yellow-glass eyes reflected rows of boys and girls pointing upward, mouths forming perfect circles. When the dragon executed a final spiral and powered skyward, scattering rose petals from startled doves, she angled the beast toward Dragonstone. Tomorrow the voyage would begin, and Aurora Wing needed every wingstroke. Below, on the crenellated terrace outside the Queen's Solar, Alysanne paced a chalk outline of the Smoking Sea. She rehearsed distances. 3 days swift flight to Pentos, one more to the Basilisk Isles for fresh water, then south-southeast until the sea steamed beneath them and the sky smelled of sulfur. Each mark on the chalkboard represented a reef she must skirt, a storm line she must ride beyond. Maps could betray, but instinct, honed by dragon wings and wind, rarely lied. Tyrion lounged nearby on a low stone bench, quill scratching into ledger. Forgive an old clerk for nagging, he called, but how does one measure supplies for destinations unmapped? With generous margins and a healthy respect for improvisation, Alysanne answered. She'd grown tall this past year, all knees and elbows, yet her voice had found equilibrium as clear as rain on marble. We carry dried figs, saltfish, wine watered by half, and 3 barrels of pickled sea kale. Dragonflight shortens hunger, but sailors still require chewing. And what of shade water? Tyrion arched a brow. The Smoking Sea is legend for mists that strip skin from bone. I have casks of moon-distilled Myrish lime water, thrice strained through chalk. Samwell's scrolls swear it neutralizes acid fog. She flashed faint grin. If not, we shall taste the irony. Such confidence. He set quill aside. Your mother will fret. Mother frets because she loves, but she also trusts. Alysanne's fingers brushed pouch at her belt. Inside, a dawn steel token Brienne had forged. Twin dragons entwined, one black, one daybreak gold. I bear Dawn's promise. At mention of Brienne, the commander herself emerged, helm under arm, linen bandage still peeking above cuirass where Silence Shard wound had knitted into scar. She inclined head to Tyrion, then addressed Alysanne. The Queen sends word. Final council convenes at sunset. Bring your navigation slate. Already written in salt on my bones, the girl said, lifting board. Council assembled in the refurbished Hall of Hearts. Long replaced for daily matters, but tonight candles burned between marble pillars carved with wild roses and flayed men and kneeling krakens. The mural of Westeros that Lord Mace Tyrell had once commissioned and which had survived both wildfire and dragon fire by some miracle of irony. Here Daenerys, Aegon, Sansa, Tyrion, Brienne, Samwell Tarly, and Alysanne met with distant voices from Stark, Greyjoy, and Tyrell lands via the new Blinkstone projectors. Faceted crystals that carried faces across beams of light thanks to a cohoric glassrite's insane brilliance. Regal perched outside the broken glass cupola, humming low contentment. Aurora Wing and Jade Flame napped in the courtyard, chained only for appearance. With dawn they would be free again. Samwell cleared throat. Our lexicons of pre-doom Valyria, he gestured to a chest hauled in by 2 acolytes, mention 3 surviving outposts on pillars of obsidian that rose after the cataclysm. Each outpost was said to guard a final gene vault, a cavern where dragon lords stored bloodlines of their beasts in egg form, dormant through centuries. A low murmur rippled. Dragon eggs had been found before, but most were stone. True survivors could birth more living flame. Aegon leaned forward. If such vaults persist, Kartha's warlocks won't be only hunters. Tyrion eyed Ledger. Nor the Iron Bank, nor Volantis Triarchs, nor Lysine Highborn who fancy dragon leather gloves. Daenerys let silence fall before answering. We sail and fly in secrecy. My flagship, the Dawnstar, leaves Dragonstone with Samwell and a skeleton crew at first light. Aurora Wing and Jade Flame escort. Drogon and Regal remain to guard the realm, answerable to Aegon and Sansa. Brienne commands escort at sea. Arya Waters rides Jade Flame wing to wing with my daughter. The Queen surveyed faces. We go not to build empire, but preserve balance. More dragons mean more responsibility. Yon Royce's Blinkstone image rumbled. And if the smoking sea births shadows instead of eggs? Then we chart those shadows, Brienne answered, and stand ready. Approval mixture of dread and hope-filled hall. Samwell passed around small vials, potion of jar-en root and mint to counter sulfur fumes. Whenever new science mixed with old stories, he said, one should never discount indigestion. Council adjourned. In corridor, Daenerys took Alysanne aside. Torches licked red across their faces. Promise me, the Queen said, if coast turns treacherous, you will fly home, leaving me if necessary. Alysanne's eyes, now deep indigo like summer dusk, gleamed bright. Mother, Starfire binds us stronger than storms. But I promise that I will choose life over pride. They embraced. Alysanne smelled of parchment, dragon leather, and sea wind. It struck Daenerys like unexpected arrow that childhood had ended for the girl at speed of dragaflight. Now came the season of quests. Dawnstar unfurled black and gold sails in hush of pre-dawn, slipping from Dragonstone Harbor while most of King's Landing still slumbered. Aurora Wing lifted first, gilded by sun-climbing horizon. Jade Flame followed, her green scales darkening to jade as if drinking the light. On deck, Samwell muttered prayer to Maiden and Smith and Lawler for good measure. Behind him Brienne drilled the 10-person shield wall they had assembled, 5 unsullied veterans, 2 Dornish spearwomen, and 3 Ironborn reavers who'd sworn to Asha Greyjoy and to Alysanne personally. One does not ignore hush struck by star-eyed princess offering Dawn steel cutlass. They made Pentos by twilight next day, docking a quieter wharf behind a warren of spice warehouses. Aurora Wing and Jade Flame roost atop abandoned watchtower, female voices below cooed unwise, promising them honey goat. Dragons retorted with low warning cough. Pentos Prince Advisory Council greeted party inside embarrassingly opulent atrium. Rich silks parted for perfumed men who swore trade loyalty if Daenerys would simply deposit 2 eggs in their vault. Daenerys accepted banquet but promised eggs only if fish sprouted wings. That night, rumors reached them. A Carthene galley called the Indigo Serpent had anchored 2 days prior. Crew boasted of glass orbs bigger than men's hearts and spells harvested from drowned warlocks. The Serpent's captain, Lady Tala Thriceborn, sought the smoking sea as well. She hired Bravosi sell sails known for mutiny price. Daenerys dispatched Dornish spearwoman Nerys to track Serpent. Nerys returned with tail. The galley had slipped out at moonrise, under guise of Spice Run. Their figurehead glows blue, she said, like eyes of white. Then speed is life, Daenerys responded. Brienne agreed, depart before midnight, ride strong wind. They sailed. 2 days south the sea changed. Black glass spines jutted like dragon teeth from waves, some taller than masts, others barely awash. Minutes after entering diffuse mist, the copper-clad prow hissed, patina flecking. The air smelled of rotten eggs and new-forged steel. Samwell ordered limewater cloth masks. Sailors wrapped oars in greased leather, though it still pitted. Aurora Wing, smaller, darted ahead, weaving between fumaroles that spat sparks pale green. At one vent she paused, wings beating, her shriek echoed like clarion through fog. Jade Flame answered, banking wide. Alicane, in scaled flight leathers, leaned low over Ororong's neck, scanning. She glimpsed quicksilver reflection under waves, whatever lurked sank before she could identify. Dawnstar-threaded labyrinth. Brienne stood at bow, Dawnsteel's spear leveled at nothing, yet every nerve tuned to corners of mist. Daenerys upon quarterdeck felt Drogon's absence heavy. Still, she carried small obsidian horn coaxed by Cohoric runes. If blown, it would call Drogon across realms. Use was last resort, it demanded dragon blood from bearer. Before noon they found first vault, a step pyramid of obsidian rising half-submerged. Bleached bones of sea dragons corkscrewed up sides like decorative rib cages. Fumarole jets burst from carved maws along terraces, a hellish fountain. No visible mooring. Jade Flame hovered as Arya Waters dropped rope ladder, Alicane dismounted on slick ledge. Samwell followed, scribbling. They entered fissure where ancient basalt stairs spiraled downward. Torches hissed blue. Inside, mural tiles depicted Valyrian bond between bloodmages and dragons, men carving their hearts, feeding blood to eggs nestled in lava cradles. The artistry mesmerized yet unsettled. They descended to cavern whose ceiling resembled inside of thundercloud, swirling purple stone. At center, 3 egg pedestals, empty. Theft marks old, dust thick. Samwell sighed, vault plundered centuries past. Brienne's voice on horn, indigo serpent sails on horizon. Alicane mounted swift, they returned aboard. Serpent approached fast, hull slim, sails shimmering unnatural blue. On deck, Lady Tala Thriceborn, a figure robed in cobalt silk laced with silver runes, raised curved staff topped by crystal containing flicker of trapped firefly. Her voice soared over churning waves. Daughter of storm and dragon, yield the map you carry and the stone eggs done slumbering. Daenerys responded with calm. Seek peace to share knowledge. Tala's laughed like ice shards. Knowledge cannot share, it devours. She lifted staff. Sky snapped, lightning arcs danced from cloud to water, sea hissed where struck, birthing steam pillars. Jade Flame swept downward, breath of emerald fire meeting lightning halfway. The clash birthed explosion of citron sparks. Aurora Wing circled higher, a waiting cue. Tala chanted. Glass cannon atop Serpent's bow, the size of ballista powered by nested crystal rings ignited, firing beam of cold light that turned seawater to brittle ice along path, aiming for Dawnstar's hull. Brienne barked order, unsullied oars pivoted, turning ship sideways so beam grazed stern, shearing off decorative railing. Ice shards showered deck, scorching cold enough to burn. An ire-born reaver lost arm, nerve endings seared shut before blood spilled. Daenerys clenched fist. No more warnings. She signaled Alicane. Aurora Wing stooped. Alicane drew Dawnsteel token, murmured old Valyrian phrase Samwell discovered. Drakkar Ignis persist. The token burned white, Ororong's chest glowed. She exhaled flame of intense white gold hotter than jade flames. Beam met flame, for breathless moment they wrestled. Then Ororong's fire cut through, melting glass cannon into slag that rained blue droplets onto Serpent's deck. Serpent reeled. Tala shrieked command, crew loosed barbed harpoons tipped with frozen silence shards. One struck Ororong's flank, silenced her roar, pain shadowing eyes. Alicane felt ripple of absence as though heartbeat muffled. She snapped shaft but silence persisted around wound. Meanwhile a second harpoon lodged into Dawnstar's mast. Sail collapsed. Boat lurched. Daenerys gripped obsidian horn. She hesitated, blowing demanded blood, hers or dragon's. She drew knife, slicing palm, crimson weld. She lifted horn but Alicane called. Mother, trust. The girl tugged leather sling free, retrieving small vial of molten dawn steel Samwell had prepared in case vault forging required. She poured glowing liquid along silence shaft. Dawn steel hissed, devoured shard, sound returning like thunderclap. Aurora Wing roared fury renewed. Jade Flame, guided by Arya, strafed Serpent's deck with controlled bursts, avoiding hull to preserve salvage. Fire licked rigging, sails blistered. Crew scrambled. Lady Tala retreated to stern, staff crackling. She hurled storm sphere that burst midair, conjuring waterspout. Dawnster tilted, groaning. But Samwell, from quarterdeck, hurled amphora of lime water steeped with queen's blood into funnel. The spout collapsed into torrent of harmless spray. Brienne seized spare ballista, took manual aim at Serpent's mainmast. Her Dawnsteel-tipped bolt sailed, severing mast near base. Wood splintered, rigging tangled, Serpent listed. Talas shouted oath to 13 hidden gods, vanished in swirl of mist. When haze cleared, she and handful of crew gone, leaving ship adrift. Daenerys boarded crippled galley with half her guard. Below deck they found hold of chained prisoners, scholars from Illyria, alchemists from Lys, forced to craft silence glass. Freed, they pledged knowledge. They discovered crate of dragon eggs, dull, stone-like. Samwell tested weight, warm faint but present. 3 of uncertain viability. They loaded crate to Dawnstar, along with hull stores of rare reagents. At dusk Serpent scuttled, cracked hull letting sea swallow warlock contraptions. Daenerys whispered blessing for those enslaved there. Aurora Wing landed deck, Alysanne hugged neck, comforted. Silence wound still oozed faint frost, Samwell salved. They resumed voyage deeper into smoking sea. 2 nights later, constant rumble of undersea volcanism resolved into tremor felt beneath Sols. Dawnstar drifted into lagoon where water boiled gentle yet sky clear, stars bright. Obsidian atolls formed ring, central island rose, carved with terraces descending into Crater Lake. Dragons sensed before humans, jade flame warbled high note, Aurora Wing responded low. From crater echo answered a call deep and ancient. Water churned, massive shape surfaced, elder dragon, scales obsidian laced with crimson pits of lava. Wings partly torn, one eye filmed white. Yet dignity radiated. Samwell whispered, a Valyrian world keeper. The dragon regarded newcomers, then tilted head, releasing rumble like boulders grinding. Around its immense neck hung iron torque from which dangled key-shaped relic. Alysanne, heart-hammering, guided Aurora Wing to hover. She bowed midair. Daenerys mirrored from deck, palm over heart. The elder pivoted toward terrace where basalt doors sat sealed. Lifting head, it exhaled plume of smoke shaped like glyphs. Samwell deciphered, blood of dawn, blood of shadow, open vault. Daenerys and Alysanne flew to terrace. Each press cut palm against black stone. Warmth spread, stone parted inward, revealing chamber filled with eggs arranged in stars. Dozens, maybe more, each shell swirling with faint inner glow like galaxies. Brienne and guards secured perimeter. Samwell catalogued frantically. So many bloodlines. Some eggs bright scarlet, others silver blue, some sable marbled gold. Alysanne approached one etched with sigil reminiscent of twin dragons. It pulsed at her touch. Daenerys saw and felt echo of first time she had lifted Viserion's shell. But Samwell cautioned. We must not awaken all. Balance is delicate. Queen nodded. We take 9. 3 for crown stewardship. 3 to gift allied realms. 3 to keep dormant for future need. Elder dragon rumbled assent. Daenerys bowed. Keeper, will you accompany us? It turned one blind eye, then spread ragged wings, embers raining. With titanic thrust it rose, circling crater, then glided beyond atolls and vanished into starlit haze. Task fulfilled, freedom sought. Through night they ferried eggs aboard, cushioning in wool. Dawnstar's hold became nursery of myth. Morning revealed horizon clearing of mists, smoking sea behind them. Voyage home calm at first, but in open waters they spotted sails. Fleet of Volantene triarchs, crimson sails marked with stormlion. Gossip had traveled fast. Brienne braced for battle, but dragons soared overhead, and Triarch Admiral, perhaps wiser than warlocks, chose to tack away, leaving only curious gulls. King's Landing greeted Dawnstar with silent awe. Rumor of eggs preceded arrival. Markets paused, bells hesitated then burst. Regal and Drogon roared, escorting flagship up Blackwater. Ceremony at Dragonbit modest, eggs placed in basalt cradles under watch of dragon keepers of both genders and all realms to symbolize unity. High Septon blessed crates in humble service, finally hailing Dawnfire as gift of 7 by divine reinterpretation. Tyrion smirked, theology bending like reed again. Alysanne presented token to Samwell and Brienne, both humbled. She requested permission for next expedition, chart far western sunset sea for rumored shadow sunsets. Daenerys smiled after one moon's rest and lessons. In north, new wall finished. Sansa invited Daenerys to witness inauguration. Queen accepted, bringing Aurora Wing and Jade Flame, eggs representing hope. Royal procession road by railroad, narrow-gauge iron path invented by Cohoric smiths and Wintertown engineers powered by small coal furnaces and arcane crystals. Travel once weeks nowadays. At Castle Black rebuilt, they held feast. Wildlings recounted glimpses of giant white stag beyond haunted forest, omen of new epic. Aegon hunted not, choosing respect. Sansa presented gift, crown of weirwood and dawn steel intertwined, inscribed in old tongue, night broken, dawn remembered. Queen accepted, placing on head only briefly to honor houses, then stored in box, symbols heavy. 10 years later songs told dreamers, dragons soared in pairs patrolling coast, famine forgotten, old hatreds cooled. Yet watchers on stepstones still glimpsed blue-eyed shadows in fog, whispers of warlocks persisted. But newly founded Dusk Guard hunted cultists as wolves chase field mice. In Hall of Hands, Samwell oversaw translation of Valyrian seed lore, training scribes. Tyrion retired to Vineyard above Blackwater, writing memoir titled Quills of a Half-Man in Dawnfire. Brienne led new order called Radiant Blades, knights sworn to protect world from silence. Dawnsteel Forging School flourished in Stormlands under Asha Peak. Alysanne matured into Dragon Navigator, charting world's unknown edges with fleet of dragonborn sailors. Her diaries became guide for freefolk sky pilots. Daenerys, hair streaked with silver white among silver gold, sat some evenings beside gently steaming eggs, listening to hatchling heartbeats not yet demanding world stage. She remembered flame and ash, nights of doubt, the hush that once threatened to swallow dawn, and when moon was fat. Above Quiet City, she walked terrace where warm breeze carried faint laughter of children still allowed Garden Day each year. She watched tiny lanterns float skyward on Festival of Dawning, each bearing wish for love, for harvest, for adventure. Lanterns rose, mingling with distant silhouettes of dragons against velvet night. The sky seemed crowded with hope. She whispered to absent friends, the bold, the Shadow King of Dawn, the Red Woman of Lawlor, and to those yet unborn who would inherit both fire and silence. Guard the dawn, she told the wind, repeating words of a man now starlight. And somewhere beyond hearing, perhaps the wind answered. For dawn remained fragile, always at mercy of long nights that waited, patient as stone. But so long as hearts chose to kindle flame, dawn would find willing keepers. And so long as one dragon took wing at sunrise, scales catching first light like promise made tangible, the wheel of fear could never grind the world into silence again. The moon rode high over the water like a half-shuttered lantern when the Dawn Star and her escort of dragons crossed the fringes of the Sunset Sea. What charts existed ended here, their parchment edges burning off into white space that cartographers filled with sea monsters or wind-blown question marks. Beyond lay two superstitions, the western edge of the world where ships spilled into oblivion and the spectral land famed only in the mad log of Alyssa Farman, a continent of pale trees and starlit mesas she named Urethal before the storm claimed her. Nobody believed that log, but Alysanne had read it until the pages smelled of her own sweat, and in the margins she'd penciled alternate headings, possible thermal vents, stone spires shaped by wind, ruins, or hoax. Now, 10 years after the Dawn Accords, she meant to find either proof or peace. The journey west was her mother's single great concession. If Westeros could endure the weeping forest and the smoking sea, then perhaps it could stomach losing its dragon princess to horizons yet unsung. Daenerys had given permission under 3 binding oaths: first, that Alysanne fly no higher than the Cirrus sheets until she cleared the last site of Dragonstone; second, that she never drink water she had not boiled herself; third, spoken soft, that she remembered Dawnfire's price and fly away from curses that looked too eager to welcome her. Alysanne accepted each with a solemn nod, then bent to kiss her mother's brow. Aurora-wing, huge now, waited aft, wings folding and unfolding in impatient origami. Jade Flame, still smaller but quick as a cutlass flick, balanced on the mainmast. Drogon and Rhaegal would not accompany them. Westeros could not be left without its wardens. Yet the elder dragons lingered over the harbor long after the expedition's sails vanished into dusk. 2 black silhouettes guarding a trail of foam that pointed toward tomorrow. The first sign that they had crossed an invisible border was the way language died on the deck. On the 12th night out of Old Town, the ship's cat leapt onto a coil of rope and opened its mouth to meow. Only a silent yawn emerged. At the same moment the lookout tried to whistle a shanty, but no note came out. Voices worked fine if one stood inside the cabin or below the waterline, but above decks every sound came out a breathless ghost. Samwell Tarly, riding amidships with his journals, wrote, a partial inversion of the warlock hush sound stolen only beneath open sky. Suspect high-level sorcery anchored to cloud height. That night, Alysanne climbed the starboard ratlins until the sea showed in every direction, dark and unbroken. She could hear nothing but her own pulse outside the bubble of silence. Lightning flickered over the far horizon without thunder. Beneath her boots, the Dawnstar's timbers creaked voicelessly. She shivered, though the air held no chill, and descended to fetch Brienne. Brienne of Tarth, broad-shouldered, scarred, and possessed of that quiet gravity which children mistake for unbreakable certainty, followed Alysanne back up the ratlins. They watched the hush devour the night. After a time, Brienne drew the dawn steel dagger she had taken from Harrenhal years ago and tilted it against the starlight. The metal glowed faint, humming like a distant drum one could feel in the bones but never truly hear. Alysanne mouthed, "It fights the silence." Brienne nodded, then produced a small chisel and knocked the dagger's pommel on the iron shroud around the topmast. The blow sang a note that both of them heard, thin but stubborn. Below, the crew glanced up, startled. In a few breaths, normal sound returned to the deck. Halyards snapping, waves slapping, Tyrion's distant curses as ink spilled across pages inside his cabin. The hush retreated, as if the note had busted a seam in a whale's bladder. When morning smeared tangerine across the west, Samwell observed that the hush never dared approach again. He hypothesized the dawn-steel dagger, tied to the shards of Lightbringer, carried enough echo of Darren's sacrifice to repel magics that tried to smother vibration. "The sword drank prophecy," he said, voice wind-puffed. "Its fragments still exhale truth." Brienne only wiped the blade clean and clipped it back to her belt. On the 23rd day past charted waters, the sky turned green at noon. Not the green of storm seas or wildfire smoke, but a haunting, shimmering jade. It rippled like silk above the masts, casting everything below in bruised emerald. The sails looked molded from seaweed, the crew like ghosts in bottle glass. Samwell took meteorological notes. Alysanne lifted Aurora Wing into the glow. From above, the phenomenon looked like a lagoon suspended in cloud. All around it, blue sky persisted. Tyrion, peering from the quarterdeck, muttered, "A god's forgotten fishbowl." But the marvel was harbinger. At sunset, a chain of pale cliffs rose ahead, white like bones under moonwash. Land. The navigators scrambled to compare the silhouette to Alyssa Farman's last entry. Jagged gates, marble fangs gnawing the tide. It matched. They anchored in a natural harbor shaped like a crescent scythe, watched by basalt statues half collapsed. Each statue portrayed a woman with wings sprouting where arms should be. The wings were ridged like a dragon's, but the faces wore no Valyrian features. Instead, their mouths opened wide, as if singing eternal lament. Alysanne touched a fallen fragment and felt faint vibration, like notes of a lute plucked far underwater. The expedition divided into 3 parties. Samwell and 2 scholars cataloged inscriptions. Brienne, unsullied, and Ironborn mapped the cliff path to a structure perched on the highest spur. Alysanne and Arya flew inland. By the next dawn, they returned with conflicting tales. Samwell's inscriptions hinted that the winged statues belonged to the Telvalan matriarchy, a nation erased by the Doom, rumored to have experimented with bridging dragon song and human vocal cords. Brienne found a deserted citadel made of bone-white marble that remained warm despite cool sea wind. Inside were troughs lined with volcanic glass, big enough for dragon eggs. The troughs were cracked and empty. Alysanne and Arya brought stranger news. 10 leagues inland lay a desert of glass, black mirror stretching to foothills. Embedded at its center was a single dragon skeleton fused to the earth. Over its ribs stood a latticed tower of unknown metal. At the tower's heart hung a perfect sphere, floating, radiating that same hush they'd encountered at sea. Birds avoided the air above it. Jade Flame refused to circle closer. The warlocks, Brienne guessed. Alysanne shook head. Older. That night, Daenerys ordered a scouting sortie at dawn, but the Dawn Star was ambushed before first light. Fog rolled from the sea without warning, thick as cloth. Through it, arrowbolts flew, heads tipped in glass that glowed electric blue. One bolt cracked the rail near Tyrion's bunk, skipping like a flat stone before lodging in bulkhead. No sailors died, but 2 were frozen where bolt shards exploded to hoarfrost. Brienne rallied defenders. Alysanne mounted Aurora Wing. As dawn broke, the fog lifted to reveal 3 ships bearing sails of deep cobalt, the Indigo Serpent resurrected with 2 sister vessels, the Sapphire Widow and the Azure Lament. Lady Tala Thriceborn stood at the Serpent's FC Selly, silver rune staff now topped with dual crystals. She addressed them across the water. "You thought to outrun our vows. Yet every dawn needs its dusk. Surrender your eggs, your charts, your world's illusions, and join our choir." Daenerys strode forth on quarterdeck. "The world's songs asterisk are asterisk illusions until voices sing them true. You killed for silence, we birth for sound. Leave or burn." She lifted her palm. On the scar from long ago she had painted a streak of dawn steel dust. It glittered. Tala raised her staff. Lightning forked. A roar from the cliffs answered, not dragon, but the statues. The wingstone women's mouths exhaled sonic wails that shook the hulls. Water split in concentric rings. Sailors dropped, clutching ears. Samwell staggered, ink bottle shattering at his feet. "They've awakened resonance," he yelled. Only Brienne and the Unsullied, wearing dawn glass inlays in earplates, kept footing. Alicent screamed for Arya, sound ripped away before leaving lips. Yet inside her head she heard Ororong's voice, an urgent thrum of chord and color rather than words. She climbed skyward. Jade flame followed. Above the sonic maelstrom, the dragons banked. Ororwing looked down at statues, vibration lines shimmered around their stone throats. Alicent understood. They are instruments. She dove. Ororong's chest swelled. But instead of fire, the dragon released a torrent of pure tone. Clear, resonant, as if a chorus of temple bells melted into one note. The sonic beam struck the nearest statue. Stone cracked, pitch jumping. The resonance collapsed into discord that folded back on the warlock fleet. Waves capsized the Azure Lament. Men tumbled. Masts split. Tala screamed unheard. Jade flame added emerald fire roar, slicing through rigging of the Widow. Daenerys signaled ballista fire. Dawn steel bolts zipped, guided by silent prayer rather than voice. One bolt pierced the serpent's steering wheel. A second hissed past Tala, shearing her staff. Crystals shattered. The sonic statue's wail died. Fog rolled back, with it the hush. River of noise flooded. Shouts, splintering wood, dragon cries. Brienne led boarding action. Cobalt sails burned. Within an hour all 3 ships lay scuttled or surrendered. Tala herself leapt into sea, clutching shard of staff. Water swallowed her. Whether she lived, none saw. Victory tasted briny, but celebration waited. The lattice tower across the glass desert still hummed. Daenerys led ground party. Samwell, Brienne, 2 Unsullied, and Alicent. Arya remained to guard prisoners. They rode armored wagons pulled by low, stocky slope mules, purchased in pentos. The desert glass looked solid, but wheels sometimes sank an inch, floating on molten pockets under crust. The tower grew larger. It was woven from spiral struts like petrified vine, shining silver lavender. No doors. From base up siphoned a column of cold blue light that fed the hovering hush sphere. The skeleton beneath, dragon of unimaginable scale, was fused to glass, bones corkscrewed. Its skull alone could swallow the Dawnstar's forecastle. Samwell examined etchings on one rib, runes older than runic. He translated aloud. "Here lies Xandros the Dawncaller, bound in eternal echo to guard the generative note." Daenerys recalled old Valyrian fable about a singer dragon whose roar shaped islands. Alicent walked to tower, ignoring heat waves. The hush pulse slowed her heartbeat, teased blood into whisper. She drew the twin dragon token. It glowed. She pressed it to glassy side. Lattice intoned harmonic ripples. A seam unfurled, a doorway of light. Inside was a chamber hewn from petrified song. Stalactites hummed intervals. Floor slabs rang like zither beneath footfall. In the center hovered another sphere, smaller, clear, containing swirl of sunrise colors. It pulsed in counterphase to hush sphere above, as if both danced but never met. Samwell, awestruck, whispered, "Constructive interference and destructive. 2 tones keep cosmos balanced." Brienne gripped Dawnsteel dagger. Daenerys approached orb. "Is this egg or instrument?" "It is seed," answered voice beyond her. Lady Tala emerged through arch conjured from nothing, soaked but alive, hair plastered. Her broken staffs half glimmered black. Seed of silence. With it I plant hush in every heart. Brienne placed herself between queen and warlock. Tala flicked shard. Glass notes sang. Floor slabs exploded, forming tongues of razor rock. Alysanne was cut off. Samwell crouched, quill as useless spear. Aurora Wing shrieked outside tower. The hush sphere above pulsed, but Token's glow pushed back. Alysanne felt surge. The two spheres were antinotes. Combine them, harmony. Separate, cacophony. She shouted, words drowned by hush, so instead she hurled Token into Seed Orb. Collision birthed blinding strobe. Seed Orb absorbed Token, blossomed into Lotus of Light. Hush scream cut. Lady Tala stumbled, blood from ears. She swung shard at Daenerys. Brienne parried, daggers clashing. Dawn steel sheared half the shard. Tonal backlash hurled Tala across chamber. She struck pillar, body folding. She coughed blue mist, then lay still. The lotus closed into new sphere, pale dawn gold. Towers hum softened to lullaby. The hush sphere overhead cracked like thin ice, falling in glitter that evaporated before touching ground. The chamber side. Daenerys, scorched by light, reached to steady Samwell. Alysanne stepped forward, palms around dawn gold sphere. Its warmth like sun at first frost. She saw visions, dragons singing continents into form, humans weaving tongues from dragon calls, the doom splitting harmony into shards of silence and flame. She saw Darren's sacrifice again, but now as chord, one that ended night but left unresolved cadence. She can carry it, Samwell said softly. Her blood is both price and promise. Daenerys nodded, eyes wet. Then we guard her guarding it. They departed tower. Outside, Aurora Wing and Jade Flame awaited. The elder skeleton's eye sockets gleamed faint as though restful. That night on cliffs they built cairn of the warlock vessels Cobalt would pyre to silence. Flames crackled normal, no hush. Tyrion toasted absent friends, Samwell poured half-cup to ground for Darren's dawn. Alysanne told Mother we must return the sphere to the realm. But we must not hide it behind walls. We must teach its harmony. Daenerys gazed at stars. The wheel once broke bones, then we pledged to break wheel. Perhaps better to teach it to turn gently. They sailed east. Word of battle preceded them, ports offered them free harbor out of fear or veneration. Children traced images of dawn gold sphere in sand. A faith brotherhood proposed new festival of balance where bells would chime to celebrate both sound and silence. Sansa Stark sent Raven, north holds against wind and warlocks vanish, come home safe. Upon return, council gathered again. Alysanne placed the sphere on plinth in Hall of Hearts, it floated, singing faint. The High Septon knelt before it, bowed head. Even maesters of hard skepticism wiped tears. Samwell proposed the sphere of balance be shared. Each kingdom host it one moon in rotating cycle. Tyrion quipped that anything passing so many hands usually ends up pawned. But the council ratified arrangement, trusting Dawnsteel guardianship. Brienne formed new cadre, the resonant wardens sworn to defend sphere, armed with weapons tuned by Samwell's calculations. Edges vibrated at note that could split warlock glass. Daenerys, older, eyes lined but bright, addressed realm atop dragon pit. We stand on cusp of second dawn. When silence and song intertwine, we choose chorus over void. Let no child be born without voice. Let no voice be caged by fear. Dragons saluted overhead. Jade Flame's belly glowed emerald. Ororong's underside shimmered dull gold. Somewhere inside Dragonstone's vaults, new eggs stirred, warmed by future. Years unspooled like ribbon. The sphere's circuit among kingdoms became pilgrimage. In Riverlands, farmers played flutes by its light to bless floods. In Dorne, bards set poems afloat on lanterns, singing each back to echoing canyons. Even Iron Islands hosted it once, the drowned priests grudgingly allowed it below deck of flagship for one tide, after which storms calmed for 7 days, first break in season's wrath in memory. Yet no peace lasts untouched. One harvest, a raven came black as betrayal from Citadel, Archmaester Vagon of Runes murdered in his study, Dawnsteel arrowhead in heart. Sphere had been in Old Town that moon. Body found beneath torn tapestry depicting forging of Lightbringer. On wall scrawled with charcoal, balance is still a blade. Council convened. Brienne rode night and day to Old Town, found tracks in dust, prints of soft-soled slippers, not boots. Library dust contained flecks of crushed blue glass. Warlock cult not entirely dead. Sansa pressed, if Old Town breached, nowhere safe. Samwell suggested embedding resonance charges inside Sphere. If tampered, it would sing alarm audible across leagues. Alicent countered, fear would chain gift. Daenerys proposed unusual tactic, bring Sphere beyond ocean again, this time east to Et and Astai. Let our unknown enemies chase us into light they fear. The council split. While they debated, an Ironborn runner delivered crisis. Island of Pike hammered by cyclone, unnatural, water swirling and hush. Survivors claimed thunder muted. The Sphere had left there 3 moons earlier, hush remained echoes. Daenerys recognized pattern, hush storms feeding on void left by Sphere's absence. Warlocks weaponized silence from Tower long ago, their remnants now siphoned where Sphere traveled. Decision realigned, carry Sphere into Heart of Storm, reunite Hush and Harmony so they cancel. Thus Dawnfire's last campaign began. Fleet of 30 ships, dragons overhead, sailed west to Pike while Hush Storm raged like white tornado. Waves climbed walls, salt towers crumbled. The Sphere, secure on flagship prow, glowed bright. At Storm's Eye Lady Tala reappeared, or something wearing her shape, formed from cobalt mist, ice-burned void. She claimed Hush now alive, feeding on doubt. She offered Queen bargain, trade Sphere for eternal calm, no war, no discord, no need for song. Alicent answered by lifting Sphere sky high on Ororang's talons. Jade Flame, Drogon, Regal ringed. Birds of Dawnfire. They sang dragon songs seldom heard by mortals, thunderous harmony roaring across gale. The Hush Storm buckled, its silence cracking like glass under hammer. Tala screamed, body fracturing into shards of blue that dissolved. Sphere absorbed Hush, glow pulsing between extremes until settling to warm amber. Storm vanished, sky clearing to reveal rainbow. After, quiet was natural, not sorceress. Pike's rock shone wet. Fishermen stumbled from caves, weeping. Ironborn kneeling at dragons startled realm historians more than any battle. Council declared warlock threat ended. But Alicent argued seeds of Hush lie in every heart that craves control. They tasked resonant wardens with watch of minds as well as swords. Teaching children to cherish voice, teaching lords to listen before decrees. Sphere became school bell, traveling, gathering songs. 25 years after Dawnfire War, Daenerys walked alone to cliff above Summerhall ruins, now garden where poppies grew among melted stone. She carried no crown, only simple cloak. The wind smelled of rain and distant jasmine. She felt presence beside her, Darren's memory, Barristan's, Melisandre's, they murmured soft through grass. She knelt, planted seed of dawn lily bred by citadel, petals red on black edge. Behind, she heard footfalls, Alicent, grown into woman, all realm hailed as Dawn Weaver, flanked by Brienne gray-haired but iron-strong. Alicent said, Mother, a rider from Essos, they wish to join accord to share Sphere for festival of 10,000 bells. Daenerys smiled. Show them garden. Tell them every flower here rooted in ash. She rose. Overhead dragons circled, Aurora wing vast enough to eclipse sun for heartbeat, jade flame emerald comet, new hatchlings of many hues. In their shadows walked a world still imperfect, still healing, but louder with laughter, richer in nuance. Daenerys thought of wheel stories, some wheels grind, some carry. This wheel, forged of dawn fire and silence, turned slow but sure, carrying voices new and old. She touched scarred palm where first horn call left mark, whispered, Guard the dawn, and dawn answered, not with fanfare, but with steady light spilling over Summerhall stones, turning melted ruin into gold.